Go live. Ba-ba-bum. Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. My name is Dara, and joining me today is Brian, one of the other members of the Red Path. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Brian has recently hopped on as an official member of the Red Path and is joining me today to discuss the balance update, I guess we can call it, from Games Workshop, which is super interesting time because we have a lot of points changes to world leaders and a lot of other factions. How are you doing today, Brian?
I'm doing good. It's midday over here. I'm actually planning on taking a quick knee-jerk list that I've been brewing over to my club in a few hours, and I'm really excited to see what this new meta shakes out to be.
Nice, 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 nice. Yeah, as you know, Brian, I've been in a little bit of a fluster today, scheming new lists, which has been quite enjoyable for me. Bit of a head rush of like, oh my god, I can do all these things. I think it's fair to say that non-Grand lists have definitely benefited a little bit more than conventional non-Grand lists. Would you say?
Yeah, and I think when we get there, you'll see that like if you were playing one of the more typical builds, you definitely have a puzzle to solve right now for what you need, like what you need to change because you didn't get too much back. But if you're playing one of those like weirdly off meta homebrew kitchen table builds, you some people found like 150 points just in their pocket.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's definitely a good time to be like kind of like a brewer right
I think
now
so.
and
Yeah.
trying to come up with some creative ideas. You're definitely being rewarded with this slate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like I mean one of my lists gained 80 points, which I was just like, "Holy moly, this is a good time." But I think there's a few people going around with like three demon engines, like three maulers that gain a lot of points or I know Jason
Somebody,
packing the 30 terminators gain quite a bit as well, which is nice, but it's I think it's a good time. Like it bodes well this season for world leaders, but I think there are some big fish in the meta which are going to be challenging for us to overcome. And we're going to talk about that today. So today's stream is going to be the first of two parts for anyone joining us. So we're going to stream today our initial like reactions to the points overall, not just the world leaders. We're going to go through everything and kind of do a top-down overview of the factions and how they've changed, and then we're going to look at world leaders at the end, as they are at the end of the document, and talk about like what we think world leaders are going to be like in the upcoming meta. Hopefully very soon, probably tomorrow or over the weekend, we'll have another video out where me and Brian really deep dive into some lists that we've been cooking up and specific world leader builds, and really go into like quite detail and nuanced takes on that. So that is going to be the plan for today's stream and upcoming content, because there's a lot to talk about. I think it's a fairly significant change to the meta. Obviously, we have three new codexes hitting the scene, which drastically alter how world leaders kind of operate in the general ecosystem, because obviously one of our big bullies, Custodes, is being more or less taken out of the equation. Maybe not like completely gone with the points changes today. I think they're still relevant, but they're a much easier matchup for us. Then we have Tau, which it's hard to say yet because we don't have the points for them, but I reckon they will be a challenge for us. And then we have Orks, which are probably going to dominate the meta, I think. I don't think it's dramatic to say that Orks are going to be a serious problem for not just us, but for the game by and large. What do you think, Brian? Are they.
I I think with with the reveal of the Forge World, like Orcs got gutted in the Forge World reveal. I think they lost almost all but one
They
model.
didn't lose the Gargantuan Squigus, which maybe is just a points error or something. I'm not sure.
But there was a lot of talk about grot tanks
Mm,
pushing the shooting detachment. Those are gone now. Shooting detachment's still going to be good. I still think it's going to be one of the more accessible competitive orc lists that you can build. But I feel like the tide is upon us.
yeah.
I know a few orc players I'm talking to, all they're talking about is 100 plus boys right now. And that is probably going to be the most common stat check army you will see at your mid to upper level tables.
It's very easy
So,
to play, right? You just push 100 plus boys across the
right.
board, and you don't really have to. It's going to be great for all the Custodes players who abandon the faction because it's like the same amount of brain power. You literally just shove and say, "Can you deal with it?" Most players can't, and then that's it.
Yeah, but you can buy half a Custody army and a combat patrol. This will bankrupt you just to get 120 boys
Okay,
by
I know
itself because
people
I
are
think that's
saying
like
this, right? But like every orc player has these boys. Like people are like, it's gonna take a
sure,
long time to get 100 boys
but
painted up. They
the
have them
meta
ready.
jumpers, the meta jumpers are gonna
True.
we got a month or two before the meta jumpers hop on,
Yeah,
but
maybe,
I
maybe.
think 120 boys is like 850 points,
It's
or
crazy.
like
Yeah,
it's not even over 1,000. I think it's between 800 and 900.
yeah. We'll get to it when we get to it, but I think those are three big ones going forward. I think crons are still going to be super relevant. Some other
They're the same
armies,
army. Yep.
yeah, some other armies got some interesting drops that we'll talk about, and then obviously others have gotten interesting increases. But we will dive into it. If you are joining us, hop into chat, say hello, ask us some questions. If you want to have your question answered immediately, super chats are the best way to do it, and support us here on the Red Path as well. We'll get to as many as we can during the stream, but the super chats will take priority. We are going to dive into the points update for everyone. So I think Brian is going to get it up on screen here so that we can work through it faction by faction. And I believe the first one up is the Sisters of Battle, right?
Let's see. Can you see my screen, Dara?
No, we do not have you on screen yet.
I thought I put it up.
Oh, yeah,
There we
all
go.
good, all good. So we have the lovely Munitorum Field Manual, and yeah, Sororitas, the Sisters of Battle up first. So a few increases and a few decreases here. Obviously, Arcos going up, Crusaders, Death Cult Assassins. Are they the ones that like used to just jump in and do the like you can only attack me kind of a thing, or?
Well, I mean, the whole army could do that.
Well, yeah, for sure, but I
The
don't think I've played
primary
against.
offender was the Crusaders.
Yes, yeah,
Those are the primary offenders.
yeah.
Um, I've played against Sisters quite a bit. I don't quite know all of the names of the models. I do know the biggest offenders in their list that really needed to go up were the Flagellants. They were obnoxious to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've swung 10 Berserkers plus Mo into them and still had like 2, 3 of their models left. 2 wound models with 4 up feel no pains. 4 up feel no pains of the Wild West.
The
Seeing those
Triumph
go, I
going
think
up
they,
is big as well, right? Like that was
and
a
that's a
real
double nerf
keystone
on.
unit.
That's the second time that's been nerfed. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the last time they limited the infinite dice and made it like 2.
Yeah.
Arc of Legends, I want to say we're 150.
I
Are
don't
they
think they've gone up
150?
much. Like we're still probably going to see quite a lot of them. I feel.
I
I don't
think
know. Maybe you agree, but like there was already a ton of stuff on the Sisters board. I don't know if this really meaningfully like impacts their board state. I think they're probably still going to be quite strong. And mortifiers and penitent engines going down kind of scares me because I played against those things before and they blend.
and I think it was I was watching Ryan B's like team stream and 10 Arco Flagellants also picked up 4 Exalted 8-pound just casually
Oh
at
yeah,
AP0.
yeah,
They're insane. They're still gonna see play.
100%.
The biggest issue is them being 2 wounds, but can't change that.
Yeah. Demonifuge going down in points. I actually played against the Demonifuge a lot. So I feel like this is maybe Robin Cruddace on a personal crusade because I know when I played him, he was like obsessed with the Demonifuge. So I think that might be that. But yeah, the Sacristans as well. I don't know how they are in this edition, but them going down is interesting because they were very popular last edition. So I think people probably have those models. But yeah, I think overall it's probably fine for Sisters. Like it looks like they might have gone up like 20 to 30 points, which maybe just means they lose a Crusader squad. So I think they're still probably going to be extremely competitive.
Right, and they're an army that just ran the board over with trash, but all of their trash is very consistent trash.
Yeah.
So it ended up being good. So just having one less piece of trash, their army's still gonna be really good.
Yeah, for sure. Rin is telling us here in chat, Arcos were 120, went up to 140, and now 160, or is that the triumph?
Okay, that's huge.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
huge,
all right,
actually.
yeah, that's quite a lot over time actually. So they they are really going up. The Demonifuge going down is wild according to Rin because those models are nutty. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one who thinks that. Like I played against the Demonifuge and it has like this weird anti-chaos thing where it just like makes you take a leadership check and you just take a bunch of mortal wounds. It's like, all right, man, I guess.
Seems needlessly malicious.
But I think it's like chaos has to take it at like -3 or something. I don't know. It's living rent free in my head.
What is this model?
It's like oh wait, maybe I'm misremembering it. Is it the one? Is
Is
there?
this the model with the guys strapped in like the mech suits that have flamers? Is that what that is?
No, no, that's the mortifier, I think. Zach from Sad Boy gives us 5 on the super chat. Thank you so much, Zach. Hello, new to the faction. Just got everything last Tuesday. Got it built and painted. How do I join the comp Discord? Is it through Patreon? Yes. So there is like a general comp Discord in our public Discord. If you want to get the specific Patreon Discord, that is through the Patreon link, which should be down below. If you sign up there, you can hop into that private channel and get focused feedback from myself, Brian, and a host of other maniacs who are trying to make me run 30 Terminators, but we'll get to that one when we get to it. Stern
A bet's
and
a bet.
Kiangel, I think, is actually what I was thinking of. The sister and Harlequin. Yeah. That is the Demonifuge, right? Yeah, I think that's it. It's like a pair of models, and they just go around and blast you. Anyway, I think it's fair to say, sisters, probably A tier still, would you say?
I think they're going to be one of the armies to beat, definitely.
Yeah.
They're going to be in the hands of a good pilot. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
It's a very like they're going to be a top. They're a 4-1 army all day.
Yeah, I mean Vic Vijay won the Oxford GT just last weekend with a sisters list. That was I would say a bit unconventional, but obviously he's an excellent pilot. So yeah, interesting to see where they shake out. I think some of their competition has been reduced. I actually think they have good play into Orks, but yeah, maybe let's move on to the next one and see what we've got.
Next up, we got
Oh,
Custodes,
Custodes. That's a
which
lot of green.
I don't really have any frame of like I've seen the Codex reviews and stuff. I know they've lost a lot of defensive stats. I don't quite remember where their original points were at.
I think I've got a
Um,
pretty decent idea. I mean, a lot of the stuff going down there is the sisters stuff, which is like if you thought it was going to be bad buying a sisters army before, you now have to buy even more. Like wardens are 250, which is like honestly still pretty cheap for what they bring
weren't
to the
they,
table. I think.
weren't they
That's quite a scary.
like 225 before for 5? They were
Yeah,
like
something like
225 or
that.
something
Yeah,
before.
like they're still going to be really good. I think. And like guard being 225 is like with some of the new detachments, I think they just like really go heavy into the infantry at that price point. Um, there's play here for Custodes still. I feel. What do you think?
I think there's a lot of panic about Trajan being 180 right out the gate
There
too.
was,
He's
yeah.
down to 150, which is nice. See
I
my
mean,
guys
like
seem dead.
Trajan
There's a
is
few
only
more
10
down
points
here.
more than Invocatus, right? Which is like that's wild when you
I
think
don't like
about
that
it.
comparison.
Yeah. Um,
Custodians, don't underestimate them on the table. They will still absolutely, especially if you're a world leader player, please don't underestimate them. Matchup got winnable. Matchup is not free. Matchup is now just winnable.
I totally
Their
agree.
defense is
Like if
down,
you
but they
decide that
punch
you're
about
just
twice as hard.
yeah, if you decide you're just gonna steamroll these guys, you're gonna get shocked and you're gonna get found out. I think.
I think play like you were playing before when they were really good, and you will do fine. Don't try to don't try to get fancy with them. You'll definitely find out real quick because they
Oh yeah,
definitely still hit like a truck.
100%. Yeah, they're still super scary. I think just not as scary as they were, which is nice.
No.
Um, I think it will be interesting to see what archetypes come out of it. I think the sisters going down makes the talents detachment quite viable if you have the right models. So I think that will be quite interesting. I mean, you're looking at 40 or 50 points for those small squads, which can give off those buffs in talons. So there could be something there. And I mean, Alaris at 130 points for 2 Alaris Terminators is still very nice. So yeah, I wouldn't be
They hit on
underestimating them.
twos now.
Yeah,
If their big axes hit on twos,
they
which
do
is
indeed. How much are the bikes actually? Virtus Praetors?
they're still kind of garbage.
Yeah,
They
I was
didn't
just
really
wondering if they
change at
dropped a
all.
lot. Oh, okay. They were like 200 points for 2.
Were they?
Yeah, in the Codex. So that is a decent drop.
They're
Um,
still T6,
they're
the
still bad.
exact same
Yeah, I was
defensive
just wondering
profile.
if they dropped
There's
them like enough to spam. I have nightmares about playing against all bike lists. So, okay, yeah, I think Custodes probably will fade out of the meta by and large. I think people just probably won't bring them as much, but like I think you said it right. It's not a free matchup for us. You got to pay attention. It's still a combat army. It will hit harder than it used to even if it doesn't have the tricks, if you decide to get sloppy, and they have their go turn, and you're exposed, you're done. I think.
And Custody fans, there's still a lot of Custody fans out there, and they're probably the most accessible 40k army to get into. So you're still going to see them at mid tables and tournaments. They're still going to be kind of around and be probably an above average representation, but
Yeah,
you're
for
not going
sure.
to see them pushing 4-1 XO anymore.
Yeah. Don is here in chat. Don, hello, good to see you. All right, let's move on. What do we got after good old Custodes? Oh God.
Oh God,
Do we have to talk
I
about
don't.
this one? I actually can't believe they did this. Like more point decreases for AdMech is just like sold that wound, baby.
I knew we
Um,
were going to get like exclusively a points update, but I was hoping there'd be an asterisk there and they just
yeah,
say, and AdMech gets new rules.
they did say there's stuff coming for them in the next actual rules update. So
Oh, sweet, 4 months from now.
yeah, I mean, hopefully that's the end of the wait for the AdMech players. I really do feel bad for them. It's been a long 10th edition
I
so
mean,
far, and I actually just don't think AdMech players wanted point decreases because the army is just so expensive to collect. I don't really have too much to say here. I mean, like, we're not going to see them in the meta. I don't know if it warrants a whole pile of discussion. If you do see him, it's like some masochist who's running like 250 Skitarii infantry models. Um, and you just got to feel bad for him, Like, it's just a tough
Ad
time.
AdMech and teams is actually fine because they are like AdMech is not a. They're bad for the wrong reasons right now. They're bad because they're impossible to collect. Nobody wants to spend $3,000 in a Warhammer army, and nobody wants to paint 400 minis just to play Screen Simulator.
Yeah.
Um,
Because they don't kill anything. They literally just are just like, there's so much of us that we can score points and we can't do
which
much damage.
and that's like when Votann and Death Guard originally, like in the first data slate, were performing really abysmally, and they were like, "Hey, what if we just double the size of your army?" Which
Yeah. Which
I
worked for
mean, I get
Deckard.
you get a higher win rate. Well,
Yeah. It worked in inverted commas. All right, cool. Yeah, Admech got some point drops. I feel sorry for Admech players. Adeptus
the true
Titanicus,
one.
nothing has changed. I was hoping for drops to the Warhound, but
Make my Reaver Titan 2,000 points.
oh, can you imagine? Would you do an RTT with a Reaver if it was
Oh
2K?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I know Don was like really pushing to make a Warhound work in Death Guard, and part of me wants to do the same with World Leaders, but yeah, it's not. Yeah, let's not
Does the
talk
Warhound
about
Titan have a
Titans.
melee profile?
The Witch, sorry.
No, does the Warhound Titan have a melee profile other than its feet?
No, it just has feet. It doesn't have any combat thing. Dude, its arms are too
No claw?
small. No, it doesn't
No
have a
Ursa's
claw.
claw?
The Ursa's claw
Oh.
is a gun. That's,
Oh, it's a gun. I'm
it's a
sorry. I
harpoon.
was at a
Yeah.
sin. It's both.
Yeah, it's well, I guess like you could probably like sweep that thing, right? I mean, yeah. Anyway. Okay, this is a big one.
I don't
Eldari, the cursed Eldar. You feel I think different about this than I do. Do you want to kick it off?
I don't know if I'm gonna I'm just tired of seeing this army be good. Um I think it deserves to be okay. I don't think it deserves to be sent to the Shadow Realm. But there's a few other models in here that I would have liked to have seen at least go up a little bit.
Like what? Give me some
Uh,
examples.
I guess they did go after Flagon, but warp spiders are definitely like the bane of my existence. Those models are some of the best. That's probably one of the best data sheets in the game.
Yeah.
They don't even move. They just teleport 24 inches, set you on fire, and then phantasm away, or fire and fade away. And then overwatch you too in the same turn. They do a lot more damage than they should. I I'm happy to see them try to do the internal balance here, but I wish they would have done it a little bit more because there's a few more models within the Eldar index that we aren't seeing as much, and there's a few that we see in every single list, and we're still going to continue to see in every single list.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think like um seeing things like Hawks and D cannons go up and then bring down like striking scorpions and banshees doesn't mean people are going to bring striking scorpions and banshees. It just means people are going to bring more warp spiders, right? Like that
they're
it's
just
just
going to
gonna
side grade to what's already
yeah,
broken because they haven't been given choices. And then Shadow Specters did go up.
yeah,
Swooping Hawks did go up. D cannons did go up, so I think we're going to see either one less MSU squad from Eldar, or we're going to see just a side grade from
Yeah, that's
Swooping
all it's
Hawks
gonna
to.
be. Like I looked at they didn't go up much. It's like 5 or 10 points. All it's gonna be is like one less squad. It's still gonna be MSU hell. It's still gonna be a tough matchup for world leaders in general, and it's a very pilot skill reliant matchup. Like if the Eldar player outskills you, you're gonna have a really tough time. I think. Yeah, I think they did an okay job here, but I think it's sort of like a token gesture to reduce things like Storm Guardians and think that that's actually going to matter. No one is ever going to bring Storm Guardians, and like maybe in a world where they put up things like the Shroud Runners and the Warp Spiders as well, people may look at Scorpions. But why would you look at Scorpions when you can just take Shroud Runners, take the Spinners, just it's not really going to matter that much. I don't think
The,
anyway.
no, and I think the D cannon specifically in itself is the reason why I don't play Lord of Skulls. Um, I
Oh
put
yeah,
it out on the table for the first time, and it got one shot by one D cannon on the first turn, and I was like, fantastic game.
yeah.
And then put the Lord of Skulls back on the shelf. Lord of Skulls is still fine. I was just salty. Uh, this matchup for World Leaders, I think going forward is going to stay pretty much the exact same. Nothing's changed. This is one of the key matchups where whoever goes first gets like the huge advantage. I think the go first. This is like one of World Leaders' best margins of go first win versus go second lose.
Hmm.
Um, so going first into Eldar, you're favored. Going second is gonna be a rough time.
I think that's pretty fair. Yeah. Let us know in chat what you think about Eldar, and if you are just joining us, you're more than welcome. We're going through the balance update here, having a good time talking about everything. We're going to focus on world leaders towards the end of going through all these updates. If you do want to have your question answered in chat, hit us up with a super chat, and we will turn to it there. But we are very happy to have you all here, so feel free to send some messages. Oh yeah, the Phoenix gem went up. Forgot about that one. That is
Which one was that
badly
one?
needed. That's the res
I know
thing.
what they all do. I just don't know their names.
The
Which one is
Phoenix
that?
gem brings whoever has it back to life on and two.
Okay.
The one where it's like I killed
The
the
Autarch
Autarch
that doesn't
and
die.
he's back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean they probably went up like maybe some total of like 50 to 70 points in their list, which as you said is like one MSU squad, right?
Or just move over to a different MSU squad
Yep.
and
Yeah.
just
True
change
in
your
many
build a little bit.
cases. Yeah. Yeah. Boss says Eldar needs to stay in the bin. Eldar need to see the bin if they want to stay in it. They're not even close to the bin and have
Gone
not been
through
for a
like
while.
7 data slates, and they're still probably going to be an A tier army.
Yeah, Rin says they can see scorpions in a weird world. I can also see scorpions in a weird world. They're like not that bad, and with Karandras, they're kind of scary.
But how do scorpions handle 110 boys?
Probably pretty well. They actually get like crazy sustained, so
Do that?
yeah, it's actually probably not that bad. I think
I
Karandras is
actually
like
haven't looked.
sustained 3 when he charges, so it's actually probably not a terrible unit because I think they infiltrate as well. So you could like use them as like the first speed bump for the boys. Yeah, I don't know because you
Depends
could
if it's the.
infiltrate them and then redeploy them if you don't go first. So that yeah. Anyway, we're not talking about Eldar too much. Agents of the Imperium. I guess this is relevant, right? The Calidus went up and Draxus went up. And Henchman went up, which feels rude to night players, I think. What do you think?
There were a few Space Marine players that were doing the henchmen like 12. I think they had the 12-inch incursor bubble, and then the henchmen were just oddly really tanky.
Mm-hmm.
They had a few things going for them. I don't know. I'm kind of malicious with the Calidus assassin. It's like if I'm not allowed to get my demons with lone op, you shouldn't be allowed to get your Calidus with lone op. So seeing that go up, it was in almost every single.
Oh yeah, it was
Uh,
everywhere. Like I don't think I played a night army without a Calidus, and I played many Space Marine armies with one as well.
it's not an
Um,
auto take in Space Marines, but it's certainly very common to see it. They're Grey Knights. It's there almost all the
yeah,
time.
Custodes as
Night
well.
players, Custodes, yeah,
Yeah,
because Custodes struggled with uppy downy score points because they didn't want their Terminators really doing that. That felt kind of bad. So the Calidus was the
yeah.
answer to that. I don't know what the Calidus points was at before this. I want
I
to say
want to
it
say
was
either 80 or 90. I can't remember exactly what. Draxus going up is interesting though. Have you played against Draxus?
I have not had the opportunity to play. Is
Yeah,
that the one with the dragon?
she has the
Did
dragon. I played against her for the first time this week, and I did not enjoy her nestled inside a custodian guard squad with shoot twice because she has a 4-shot anti-infantry 4 plus dev wound damage 2 gun, and another gun which is indirect. And yeah, she showed up and hosed down 2 8-man squads, and I was just like, oh my god, like by herself. The squad split and shot into Invo and killed him. I was just like, this woman has just showed up with a micro Uzi and put a lot of my boys in the ground. I was shocked, you know, it was really scary.
you did not respect her, but now you do.
Oh, I respect her so much now. I got found out hard. I was like, look at that funny Inquisitor. And then she just like pulls up with the like side aim. And I was just like, okay, fair enough. This is cool. So I think she was popular like almost exclusively in Custodes armies because of that reason. Because she can only join troops. So like, why would you ever put her with like intercessors or tactical marines? You know? Um,
Especially when she just straight up gets so much value from
yeah.
being
Oh,
able to
she has
shoot
a thing
twice
as
or something.
well where she can, on a 2 plus, give her squad loan up, which is good. Not into us, but like is good. I think she showed up in some Grey Knight lists as well because there was like a weird thing with the keywords where they could still do some of their like army abilities, like Ubby Downy and stuff. I can't remember exactly how that worked, but she was popular in Custodes and Grey Knights. So yeah, I think that one is an interesting one. But yeah,
Oh
okay,
boy.
this is about to be some. There's gonna be some takes here. I think. Do you
I'll
want to
I'll
open
let
it
you
up?
start. No, you made me do it last.
Really? Okay,
You get
fine.
this one.
Okay, Guard are going to be so toxic going forward. I feel like they're like one of the natural counters to orcs, in like a big way. And I think once people realize that, we are going to see so many guard armies and so many orc armies, and they're both just going to become a stat check for us, and it's going to be really annoying because beating one is fine, but building a list to beat both is going to be really difficult. I think. We had a debate this week in Discord about the price of Bulgrin. For anyone who doesn't know, Bulgrin were 80 points for 3. They are up to 90 points, which is a 10-point increase. Interesting, you might say. I would put these guys at 120 and still be very takeable. They have one of the most resilient heavy infantry stats in the game.
Nothing in our army with max offensive buffs kills a full squad of Bulgrin by itself.
Yeah, yeah. It's if you haven't played against 80 in Bulgrin, um, I hope someone can get Ryan to send you that picture of 18 Bulgrin strung out across the entire board. And yeah, it's an experience. It's not a fun one. So they are still pushed at 90. We're still going to see maybe not 18 in every single list, but definitely 12, I think. Like the fact that 18 only went up like, what is that? In total, like 300-ish points. It's really not that much if you were bringing 18. So you probably drop it down to 12. Then what else went up? The Basilisk went up. The Manticore went up. They both went up 10 points each, I think.
Which is
Uh,
which is not nothing. Like I think
it's not
the
nothing, but it probably means you take one less indirect piece, I think.
it
Um,
really feels like GW is trying to push guard players to actually being able to see their opponents when they shoot at them.
I think they're
Um,
trying to.
because Russes are Lehman Russes are insane. They're like, are they T11? They're T10 or T11 with a 2-up save
Yeah, they're two. I
and
think
with
they're T11.
insane damage output.
Yep, and shoot on death. Which is rough for us because if you charge them, they will shoot you in combat. And some of their blast guns can fire in combat as well, which is scary. But yeah, so like
So
them going
the,
down, like I know there was people who were bringing 2 Russ in the indirect lists, so like it kind of offsets some of the increases.
they had 2 tank commanders, I think, which didn't
Mm,
change.
yeah, I think you're right. Where is the tank commander? He is surely there somewhere. It looks like he didn't change anyway.
Oh, there he is. 205.
Yeah. Maybe people bring regular Russ instead of tank commanders. I don't know, but
I mean, because like the traditional guard list that you saw, like the ones that were winning that were really toxic were mass indirect with 18 Bulgrins standing in front with 2 tank commanders, and they say if you touch the Bulgrins, the tank commanders will
yeah,
swoop out and get you. And if you decide to not play the game, you're just going to get attritioned out. So I'm happy to see that list get worse because that is one of the, even if it's not good, that's one of the worst 40k experiences I feel like you can have playing against that.
The 18 Bulgrin.
18 Bulgrin with
Yeah, it's
triple
awful.
Basilisk, triple Manticore just hiding.
It's just like, okay, cool. Like, I think we equated it the other day to the 18 Bulgrin effectively mean the indirect castle shoots you for an extra 2 turns. It's so rough. I really like Rose and D's comments in chat when life gives you lemons. It's on point. I don't know if we'll see like an actual rise in Lehman Ross. I don't think so. Like guard players are like pre-programmed to use indirect, so I don't really think that's going to change a whole bunch. Um, Rough Riders going down. It's like it's actually, you know what this is? It's quite similar to Eldar, where it's like the increases are like okay, fair enough, and then the decreases are like that's cute. I'm not
Here's your
going to pay
horse.
attention. Yeah, Tyrants
I
going down
do
is kind of interesting.
I do think Guard is going to be one of the better armies in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Coming out, they've been weird because they have a really low win rate, but like the chasm between a good guard player and a bad guard player is like 30% win rate.
Yeah,
It is insane. They have one of the biggest, just like you did a review for World Leaders, they have a very, I feel like they probably have a very similar looking ELO curve
probably. Yeah,
versus win rate.
I think they have a similar thing to, and I mean this like with all due respect, but there are a lot of people who play both Space Marines and Guard who are like, playing for the fun of playing the game and like how they want the army to be in their head. And that probably does drag the win rate down at events. Like I've played a bunch of Guard players who have like rocked up with their like really cool narrative army. And I'm like, I am here for it, but I am going to lift these 20 guardsmen or like 120 guardsmen quite quickly. Even though they look really nice in their like parade regiment colors and stuff, I will harvest them. So I think there's like a certain amount of that you don't necessarily see that much in other factions, or people who are like, I want to run 12 Lehman Russ battle tanks and then they get stuck in their deployment. So, things like that. I think people will do it, especially people who like to rock up with the super heavy tanks. Like they are really cool models, but not very competitive. And I see a disproportionate amount of them in the UKTC. Like every time I'm walking around, I'm like, oh, there's a Baneblade, there's a Shadow Sword. Like
They're,
just
they're actually quite common. Like they're
they are,
probably the most favorite pet model, like of
yeah,
all the
I
pet
think so.
models. And that's
Oh
not me saying
god,
like don't.
Gabriel Pardo is just like guard plus a Warhound Titan can be a good list. I feel like,
What if we stack two Bane Blades on top of each other?
but I actually like. I don't. I don't hate it because like that's probably one of the ones where you can get the most stuff alongside the Titan. Oh wait, you know what it is? It's probably a Titan and AdMech. Think about the amount of bodies you can get alongside a Warhound Titan. Maybe that's what AdMech players are missing. If you thought the army wasn't expensive enough, factor in the cost of a Warhound Titan.
Now
Uh,
go on GW's website and put yourself on the wait list because they've been sold out for 3 years, and
yep.
or go on eBay and pay 3 grand.
Yep.
That's your out here.
I think that's the solution. AdMech players, like they're all out there being like, "Oh, our damage output is really bad," blah blah blah, but like no one's looking deeper. They need to.
Twin macro plasma
Yeah,
cannons,
like
huh?
why
Yeah.
would you stop at the AdMech? They build the Titans on Mars. Just use one of them. That's your damage output. Have that. Have like, I don't know, 200 Skitarii bodies on the table because that's probably like what, like 50 points or something.
Don't even
I think
bother moving them. Just build your little castle.
exactly, exactly. Right. Enough memes. Rin thinks guard will be B tier. I think upper B tier. What do you think?
If we're talking strictly like an above average player with the best list, they're gonna probably be upper B, lower A.
Yeah, I think so. They'll definitely be able to challenge the Orc Menace, I think. Ooh.
Black Templars. Um, I
Okay.
have a little bit of experience playing into this.
You take it
There's
away.
pretty much two schools of thought for Black Templars. Um, Either they were on the Gladius, MSU, Impulsor spam, which got nerfed with its mainly sword bros and Impulsors going up in points, or they were on the Righteous Crusaders, which usually lent into a shootier list. Ironically, they'd probably put like 20 or 40 Crusaders in front of you with a lot of Gladiator Lancers backing it up. Um, Black Templars didn't really pay the tax before for their Meltas. I think they were like a 5 point difference between Lancers and Impulsors versus Black Templar Lancers and Impulsors. So 5 points is like nothing when you're adding 8 meltas to your army.
Yeah.
Um, so they just jumped that up to 10 points, which isn't that big of a deal. Like I know Black Templars is probably the most popular Marine army in the game. Um,
Yeah.
and if you're a Black Templar player and you look at that, you probably cut a scout squad, or you just start taking regular impulsors or regular lancers instead, because there's an argument to not needing a couple extra meltas. But both of those armies went up collectively, like
Yeah.
either like 40 points one way or 60 points the other way, which isn't much, but it's enough to take that one annoying scout squad off the board.
I don't think it's like a meaningful change to like the
No.
Ironstorm build, right? I think that is still going to be quite powerful. Maybe like hanging out in the upper P tier area with guard.
Ironstorm's still really good.
Yeah, I
As
agree. But like,
when
do you think it's better than guard? I wouldn't say so.
Yeah, I don't know, honestly. It also depends what Ironstorm we're talking about. We'll get to more of that once we get to Space Marines, see
Mm.
kind of the other changes there. But I would probably put guard above it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I don't really have too much of an opinion on them. I haven't played like a whole pile of Ironstorm. So yeah, I've just played
And
like actual Black Templar armies, which is fine. So I don't
and
really.
Gladius Templars is still probably one of the best armies in the game. Um,
Yeah, I could
they're
see
just
that. Yeah.
they're just sword bros are just insane for the amount of value they can get. 150 points, they will mulch any elite infantry squad in the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. War Boss thinks guard, good guard or A tier, fluffy guard or D tier. I think that's like pretty fair. We meet in the middle and find them at like B minus or something. Okay, wow, Blood Angels. This one's a spicy one. I am like, can I take this one for a minute? Because I like
Hey,
the BA
you can take
are
this one.
they're like my quiet love. So I play BA like almost once a week. Like my play group is like obsessed with BA. And I've been playing like against 45 Death Company for as far back as my memory goes, which is like 3 months. So yeah, the Death Company list took like quite a big hit here. Like all the things that they take, so Death Company Marines, Jump Pack Marines. There wasn't actually that many like Sang Priests in the list. I'm not really sure where they went up, but okay. And Lamarties, like all went up. I'm kind of surprised that Chaplains got away with it, but whatever. Um, but yeah, like it's a big change if you're running Death Company bombs. Like you probably lose a unit here, which is a
Because what
really
they
big
were
deal.
230, I think, before for
Yeah,
10.
yeah, and
And they
like
ran like 4 bricks, right?
exactly,
Three,
you were
three to
either
four
running three
bricks.
bricks and some MSU, or like four full bricks, or two bricks and a ton of MSU. So like the DC heavy lists have gone up like probably 100 to 150 points, which is like a ton. Oh, I can see Mike is in chat. Mike is one of my regular practice buddies who is one of the Death Company problems. He is actually famous for Death Company or a trap from when we went to Coventry a few years ago. But yeah, Sanguinary Guard going down is so fucking scary. Like,
And,
these guys are going to be the next big thing. If you haven't played
and
against them, they are -1 to hit, -1 to wound, and can Armor of Contempt when they're with Dante, and they battle shock at the start of the combat phase. If I think it has to be Dante in there, so you might not be able to use your stratagems against them. So that unit scares the pants off me.
and for those who, because Blood Angels kind of the Death Company spam, Blood Angels only took off really kind of recently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's like nothing in the game 10 Death Company doesn't kill. Like
Yeah.
they have double sustained hits, fight on death, like guaranteed fight on death with double sustained hits, with every single one of them having a power fist at
Well, the
strength
fight on
10.
death is with a strat. Like it's not going to be every squad,
Yes,
right?
but it's a guaranteed one. Like if they
Yeah.
if they're
Yeah.
showing you 4 CP and you're a close combat army, like you're gonna have a really bad turn fighting them because
Yeah.
they will just fight on death, interrupt, and pick up whatever you threw at them.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing them be 230 points and seeing Berserkers be 200 points crushed my soul.
Yeah. Now that margin
Um,
has significantly widened, but
and,
yeah, I think the rise of the Sangard is upon us. I think there's going to be a lot less of them around because Sangard are like not at all the same. You know, they're not like Unga Bunga angry, run forward. There's like a lot more nuance to using that unit, especially like when you put in Dante. it's like an expensive squad. Like it's what 430 points. I think it was like I want to say 480 before, but I might be wrong. It was very expensive anyway. And then the Death Company Dreadnought going down is like not that bad. He has like the same rules as the World Leader one. I think he's like slightly better, but yeah, it's an interesting one. So also the Battle
Uh,
Predator didn't change, which is really funny to me. It's still so cheap.
it's just a good
It's just
tank.
good.
Like,
Yeah, it's just good.
it's better than I'd say it's better than the other Predator variants, and they're more expensive.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that I'm curious about with Blood Angels, which is the direction that GW is going to go in the future. Blood Angels is one of those armies that definitely suffers from the built but not represented in the box
Yes.
syndrome.
Yeah.
Like they only have 2, 3 power fists in their box and like 2 or 3 melta pistols in their box.
It's two power fists and two pistols. So yeah,
Okay.
they're they're
Currently they
hanging
run
on.
10 and 10 for
Yep.
free.
Yeah,
So when that
yeah.
codex comes out,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I I don't know. Yeah, they're probably not going to get them. Is
Yeah.
where I'm going with that.
Yeah. I think they're still going to be like quite competitive. They've definitely come down a peg though. Like this is one of the big armies that I think average or below average world leader players really struggled into BA. They were posting as one of our worst win rates in the stats, unless it was like a high elo player for the world leaders. So I think this will be like probably quite a welcome relief to people who are struggling into the matchup on the world leader side of things, because I think the points gulf between what we gained versus what they lost is pretty wide in this matchup. Like you're talking like around 300 points of a differential in both lists, you know, after the slate, which is quite a bit.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, nothing for demons, so nothing to talk
Which
about there.
I
And
mean, I will say I'm sad that Nurglings are still just everywhere,
you
but
can be sad about that.
I don't know. Maybe I'm malicious and want to see them not be battle line or something, but
Yeah, I mean that's totally fair. Nothing for knights either, right?
absolutely nothing for knights.
Mm-hmm. Tough times.
Chaos Space Marines.
Okay.
Um, Everything they had dropped that they were playing.
Yeah. You take
Um,
this one. I actually have very little experience against like normal CSM.
Legionaries are terrifying, especially in MSU. Wound rerolls, they have crazy damage output with the sustained hits. Attach them to a Chaos Lord. A Chaos Lord plus 5 Legionaries will bonk just about anything in the
Aiden
game.
just jumped in chat when you started talking smack about Nurglings as well. I think he feels like personally offended.
Oh, I will. Oh, we'll get there when we get there, though.
Yeah.
Mauler Fiend going down to 140 points. I don't really CSM Mauler Fiend. I don't think was that great. I don't know what it does. Possessed being 130 points. Possessed were already pretty good. Possessed with Mark of Slanesh and like a 10-man does like 20 devastating wounds. I think
Yeah,
around
and they
that,
can fight on
which
death
is
with a strat or
insane.
something as well, right?
Yes, and it gets better if they're Mark of Khorne. It's a 4-up per model or a 3-up if they're Mark of Khorne, but
Oh, I thought
Mark
it
of
got better
Khorne's
if they
kind
were
of meh.
Slanesh. Right, fair enough. Yeah. Yes, pretty good though. I mean, I so okay, I'm gonna say this. Looking at it from like my perspective of not really having a crazy amount of experience into CSM, I like the things that got dropped because there are a lot of combat units, and I really wasn't enjoying the 10th edition aesthetic of CSM just shoot you. Like they were such a good gunline army. I will say one thing to watch out for here, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier. The Hellbrood going down um, makes the CSM gun line very, very scary. It has probably the most powerful Hellbrute ability in the game out of all the factions. It, as
It,
far as I remember, it either gives you double packed in terms of like both packs at once, or it makes them go off on crit fives. It's one or the
it
other. I can't
it
remember.
gives you both. It just
It
says
gives you
if you
both.
packed, you get both.
Yeah. So you castle around Hellbrutes. You probably ring one or two. You castle around them, and you gun your opponent to death. And I know that this is a thing because one of the boys on the team is running that and has hosed me with it multiple times, and it is absolutely
It,
horrific. It is
You want to
very
see
scary.
just like a predator with 3 las cannons somehow put 6 wounds on you just
Mm-hmm.
because it stood next to a hellbrute? It'll do it.
Oh, you want to see like 18 obliterators literally delete your entire army in a single turn of the game? That will happen if they're around a hellbrute with a baton. It's so that's kind of
And
scary to me, but I like that a lot of the other stuff, like the demon princes going down is cute. We looked at them just before the stream, and they are god awful. Like they're probably the worst demon prince data sheet, I think.
I didn't look at with wings, but yeah, the foot one I was not very impressed with.
Mm. It does nothing
Um,
functionally.
Havocs feel like a very confused unit. I feel like whenever I want to run Havocs, I think for CSM I'd rather be trying to push for obliterators
Mm-hmm.
more or for predators, which are around the same price point. Bikers going down is nice. Bikers are actually really good in CSM.
Yeah, they're quite popular,
Um,
right?
they have the jump off the board ability if they're next to the edge,
Yeah.
so they're actually kind of underrated.
They're like votann
Uh,
bikes in that way, right? They can just like leave and come back.
yeah,
Oh,
Abaddon and
Vindicators
the
went down. Mark
boys.
will be very pleased.
Yes, I was getting to that one.
Okay, go on.
Vindicators are actually saucy.
Mm-hmm.
Was it D6 plus 3 blast or like D6 plus 2 blast for a D6 plus something damage profile is insane.
Yeah.
That was just sustained fives standing next to, like you said earlier, Hellbrute, or even yeah, sustained fives with auto wounding sounds disgusting. Also, it has a is it has a 2-up save, right? So it's
It used
effectively a
to.
1-up.
I'm pretty sure it probably still does. I haven't looked at Vindicators since we lost them. Hello, Dan,
And
as well.
if
Good to see you in chat.
and if you just turn it sideways, it has a 1-up save, which is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But the key thing with CSM, I think you're going to see two main builds. You're either going to see like a shooting heavy build, or you're going to see rhinos with MSU spam. Because MSU CSM is kind of where they shine. All of their stuff is just very lethal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not very fast, not like us, but Legionnaires 80 points is incredible for them.
Yeah, that's gonna be good, right? Like, there's a real world where like MSU Legionnaires and Rhinos, and like backed up by maybe a few squads of possessed, maybe some bikers. I mean, Raptors going down. Raptors at 85, man. Can you imagine we had a data sheet like that in our book? Whoa, that would be spicy. So yeah, I think like there's a world where they come out again. I don't
Cypher
know.
going down is nice
Is
too.
it okay? Let me put it to you like this, right? You've got a good bit of experience with CSM. Is it what they need? I know CSM is like, I think it's the worst, one of the worst armies in the game right now on paper. I know it's not actually
So
one of the worst armies, but like on paper.
I, I think them dropping as hard as they did was just because they're already one of the least played armies going into 10th edition. CSM's not a very popular army. Um, True CSM, like, and it's same thing with like you'll see the same thing with guard players and Space Marine players, like you said, that want to play lore accurate. You have a Night Lord player, you have an Iron Warrior player. They're not actually playing. Like I know plenty of Night Lord players that just refuse to run Demon Engines or Possessed
Mm-hmm.
equivalent just because they want to stay on lore. So there's a lot of that running around in Chaos Space Marine, specifically for the loyal Chaos Space Marine players that stick around.
Do you think it's like exacerbated by, we'll say, the most recent balance patch, not this one, but the previous, where it's like you had a lot of faction abandonment after
Yeah,
the nerf from the
uh,
top
uh,
players. So then the people who remain loyal are those people who are like quite diehard towards CSM.
correct.
And it has like a almost like logarithmic decline of the win rate as a result, because it's just like two combining things kind of crushing you.
Because like MSU CSM was still a thing after that data slate nerf, and it was still pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
and it could still punch up really well.
Yeah.
And that game plan got better. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think CSM's in a weird spot because we haven't seen somebody take their current iteration and shine with it yet. We were just so used to seeing triple accursed cultist bricks that that was the norm. So I think this is an army that a very good player can take and kind of like pioneer
Mm-hmm.
a brand new list and pave the stars, and then everybody will follow them, and bam, we got a new meta army. I really think CSM's in a position where it could be good. We
Yeah.
just haven't seen somebody really try yet.
I agree. I think that's pretty fair. A lot of people in chat are pretty hype about CSM. It's cool to see. Obviously, there's a lot of like legacy world leader players who have a CSM army because of our book. So, I'm sure probably a lot of people are really interested here, specifically in CSM. You can see Dan saying 3 Preds, 3 Venom crawlers, and 3 Vindicators. Probably the next CSM meta. That sounds toxic,
I
but
don't I
probably
don't
true. Um, yeah,
I don't want to
and
fight that.
no.
I don't want to fight that.
Yeah, oh yeah, me either, man. Rin knows 4 true Iron Warrior players. that's that's a
If they
vibe.
release an Iron Warrior kill team like they did with Night Lords, I'll be the fifth one.
Uh, yeah, look, I've never really been able to get behind the Iron Warriors, but I think it's cool. I'm curious. Like the problem with CSM, right, is like how long is this actually real? You know, they've got a book. They're like the next book, right? So this isn't going to
They got
exist for
probably
very
like
long.
a month before their book drops.
Yeah, a month or
So
2 months most. Like this is kind of like you're not going to see a lot of people actually picking this up and really pioneering it because they probably have at most 2 tournaments before everything changes again, right?
mhm.
Okay, let us move on. Dark
Dark
Angels.
Angels.
Ooh,
Probably the worst codex written so far. I
yeah.
mean, the codex is fine, but it's never going to see any support because it just has access to Gladius and Ironstorm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's really nice to see them get some love here. Um, Biggest one, Lionel Johnson, down 50 points.
Oh wow, he dropped 50. I did not know what he was before, but nice.
He on release was 380 and still did not see play.
Okay.
And at 300, I think he still will not see play. His melee profile is just worse than Gilliman's, and Gilliman just has better abilities. But with Lionel Johnson at 300 points,
Yeah, maybe,
like
maybe.
it's like he's starting to poke his head back up, and you're not quite throwing anymore. Like if we had that tier list up again, I'd put him firmly from he's bad and you should feel bad to not quite throwing.
Okay,
So
cool, 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 cool.
it's cool to see him go up. Inner Circle Companions, they got released. I haven't seen a single person play one yet.
Mm. I mean, 3 models for 90 still seems like a lot. I don't know. Like, I think it's
I
fair to say
coming
that.
from a World Leader player, that's bold.
Well, okay, yeah, fair. Noted. I I personally don't think we're really gonna see actual Dark Angels. You know, it's
No.
probably just gonna be more of the same as we've seen before, right?
I, I'm looking at UGW. Please just Codex lock all of these guys so you can actually give them the internal balance they deserve,
Yeah, fair. Very fair. Just yeah. All right.
or make non-compliant better,
Mm-hmm.
or not non-compliant. Sorry, I make true Space Marines like your Imperial Fists. Your give them some sort of little side grade here.
Yep.
For your White Scars, Imperial Fists, and all them who don't have access to 30 extra data sheets.
Let's move on from the stinky Marines. Oh, the actual stinky Marines.
Stinky. Talk
Cool.
about nothing.
Yeah, whole nothing burger.
And
I'm
that
not
is a
like
nothing.
particularly surprised. I don't think. I think there's like a couple of the demon engines that could have done with like a points drop or increase depending on which it is. Because I think is it the blow drone and the other funny walkie thing. What is it called again? Blow drone and
The Blight Haulers?
Blight Hauler. They're like the same points, right? Oh no, the Blight Hauler is more expensive and it's just worse. So like swap the points. I don't know. Kind of weird.
I feel like Death Guard is one of the biggest winners from this, though.
Oh yeah, getting
They
away
were
scot
all
free is good for them.
the Nurgling issue. I hate Nurgling so much, and fighting at -2 to hit is awful.
Mm-hmm.
To fight against. Death Guard going or the Halberd going down is I feel like inconsequential. I feel like they weren't considering it before. They won't
Oh,
consider it now.
I disagree. I disagree. The Halberd
Really?
is good. Yeah, the Halberd is quite good. It like shoots at something and gives it contagion. Like it's not that bad. I think it's
Just
Halberd's
sneezes on
gold.
people.
No, it's good, man. Like I actually think it's like one of the better ones. You know, it has a lot of weird synergy, and I bet you. Hang on, if Don is still in chat, Don is going to talk about the Halberd for sure. Um, yeah, Aiden saying Typhus remaining at 80 for some reason. Nobody knows why. We all question Typhus every single day, but here we are. He still exists.
This dude
Halberd
does
being the
like
same points cost as a
30 mortal
Pred is
wounds per game.
interesting, says Aiden. I could see that being quite interesting. Yeah.
I was expecting Mortarion to go up a little bit. I know that's a little controversial, but like he
Oh,
had
I
a
would say yeah.
massive buff with no point increases from just the rules commentary.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably one of the best distraction carnifexes in the game.
I genuinely think GW are like kind of scared of touching Deck Guard because obviously there was the fiasco at the start of 10th, and now they're kind of like, okay, we think we fixed it, But I reckon they're like, if we tweak like one thing here, it's gonna break in one direction and we won't know how to fix it again. So I think they might just be like, the win rate seems stable. No one is like hammering the crap out of people. We're not seeing like no one's complaining about deck guard except world leader players when they get absolutely hockeyed by Aiden, or Don. So like
And
I think they're kind of just like, let's let these guys coast until something bad happens. And then
and
maybe someone at GW plays against Aiden with the double sorcerer plague boss, and they're like, actually, you know what? This is not okay. Yes, the plague surgeon is still RIP. Oh no. Like
and Death Guard is actually one of the best teams armies that you can field
mm-hmm.
too. Like in the normal meta, they're almost perfectly average to balance. In a good player's hands, they can be an absolute menace, but in teams, oh god, like they don't really have when they get to pick and choose matchups. Um, they're good into almost all the melee matchups. I can see them being one of the best armies into Green Tide Orcs.
Oh yeah,
They're up
100%. Yeah,
minus
yeah,
two to
yeah.
hit in melee
Yeah.
range.
Yeah.
They'll pick up anything that Orcs throw at them. They have access to fights first. I think Orcs can't kill Mortarion, no matter what they throw at them. A lot
I
of flamers
imagine.
going on.
Yeah.
So I think they're gonna be in a really good spot in the meta going forward. I feel like a lot
Yeah.
of their boogeymen got killed.
I think the meta is
So
shaping up to be really like positive for them.
we're gonna have a mid-board mash meta, I feel
It's
like,
gonna
going
be
forward.
fun, man. I'm really looking forward to this meta. I think it's gonna be like really cool. But except for the only orcs, fucking hate orcs, man. But anyway, yeah, Deckard. They
It's gonna
will
be a lot of
perform.
orcs.
Yeah, Death Watch.
Oh
Let's
yeah.
just skip.
Um,
Drukhari, we
Drukhari,
can
is
pretty
that
much
it?
skip. Yeah,
That's it?
yeah, no changes. I'm so surprised Scourge didn't go up in points. Like, let's be real. Like they were in every Eldar MSU list. I'm like, what the hell?
To be fair, like half of this list is in, or half of their index is resin and unplayable.
Yeah, true.
So they're kind of like us, where they have 10 data sheets.
I think they actually have like less data sheets in production than we do. Um, but yeah, look, Dark Eldar are just like kind of chilling. I feel like GW like wants to wait a little bit longer to see if that new detachment is like, because I do feel like dropping too many points in Dark Eldar makes things get a little bit problematic because then they become really spammy. Um, but yeah, I think overall like they seem to be doing okay. Kind of like very much deck guard sort of region. GSC, man, I don't fucking know. You're gonna have to talk about this if we want to stop here because I have no idea about this.
Ridge Runners, those were the indirect shooty ones that gave extra AP. Those were already in auto include, I think, in most GSC lists, at least as a one of. Nobody was playing the Goliaths, as far as I know. Aberrants were horrendous. They're horrendous to fight, and they're freakishly durable. But it's also like after you add in the character, a 450 point squad.
It's no Bullgrin.
I it's no, but they're pretty close. They actually hit like a truck
Yeah,
too.
they might be pretty close, but like five dudes. Oh wait, hang on. Six Bullgrin is like the same cost as five of them. Maybe they are pretty close.
I don't know where. I don't know how much their points dropped by, but GSC is one of those armies where you either never see them or there's gonna be one person winning every GT they go to with them.
I think that's pretty much where they are in like the stats at the minute. It's like really, really low player base, but really high overrep because it's just like a couple of dudes being like, "Yeah, we are funny GSC people."
I have big
Um,
brain, and there's no clock requirement at this event.
oh, Aiden says five aberrants is the same points as six meganobs. Yeah. If you are just joining us as well, hello and welcome to the stream. Do say hello in chat. If you want to support us, if you want to have any questions answered, you can super chat and we will get to them straight away. Otherwise, I will touch base every now and then as we're going through it. We're getting through the most of it now. World Leaders is coming up. We haven't touched on them yet, and we're going to spend quite a bit of time there. We're on Grey Knights now. Okay. Grey Knights got like some hefty, like there was people running what, like three Dread Knights.
Six. The
No, that's
latest meta
including
was
the
six. It was three Dread Knights
the
and three
Grandmasters, which didn't change.
Grandmasters, which didn't change. And they were also doing Librarian spam too.
Mm.
Good. I'm glad to see the six Dread Knight list get hit a little bit, but
Taking it back, yeah. I'm actually quite glad they brought down some of the infantry because like they're cool. Um,
They're very cool. Some of like the coolest models in the game,
you know what?
honestly.
You know what? This is a good example of like take down the busted shit and bring up the shit that no one was taking, and you actually might have what they tried to do with Eldar and Imperial Guard. I think they actually got it right with the Grey Knights here.
Okay.
All right.
I don't really have much more to say for Grey Knights.
Nah, me either. They're.
I think they're still going to be a top army in the meta as well.
I think they probably dropped down a peg for sure. But yeah, moving on. We can. Yeah, Imperial
I don't
Knights.
know why they didn't touch the Knights at all, because it seemed like they were struggling, both struggling just a little bit. Because I have a Chaos Knight buddy, and he's seen a lot of success, and most of that success comes from him running 15 Nurglings. So there's like a separate problem there. But the army itself, I felt like could use a little bit of help. Same thing with Imperial Knights. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't really been seeing Imperial Knights be super successful ever since that initial like towering change. It really felt like those two armies were designed for towering, and then they just kind of took that army mechanic away from them. Like, because it was kind of like their mechanic. They took that away from them and then gave them a whole bunch of nothing in return. So
Yeah.
I'm really hoping GW does them justice in their books.
Yeah. Maybe. Um. Oh, there's some people who disagree with that. They're saying that Imperial Knights is very powerful. I think Knights is like it's just a stat check, right? You can either deal with it or you can't. Like Canis
Yeah,
Rex is obviously strong, but like I don't know. Is he that strong? I don't really
if you
think
have
so.
a friend that plays Knights and you just have an army that loses to Knights, you're gonna feel it really bad. Especially if you're it's a lot harder to tack into Knights with like kitchen table Warhammer, right?
Yeah, for
Like
sure,
Knights
for sure.
dominate kitchen table Warhammer.
Yeah.
But as soon as you get to like a higher level table where they're like you start implementing strict terrain and you do like the more competitive terrain layouts, they really fall off.
I also just think like as a world leader player, if you like give knights your army, they will just ruin you.
Well, they'll
Like
table you in one turn.
yeah, 100%. But if you play that game smartly and just kind of pace yourself, I know it's very difficult for world leaders to pace themselves, but if you do that, you will typically win. Like normally when I play Imperial Knights, I will kill like maybe one big guy and most of the armigers, but like I just run away from Canis Rex all game and just like throw tarpet units at him, being like, this will hold him up for a turn, this will hold him up for another turn, and just like do that. Until a Castellan like teleports into my backlines, and I'm like, all right, cool, we'll deal with this problem now. But yeah, Votann point drops. I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate it. Like, give them more points increases. Make the land fortress 400 points. Make the troops like 200 points. Like, they just. You can never
I don't think
convince me that Votann are fine and fair and balanced. Even if they are, I won't believe you. I just won't accept it.
I don't know if I ever saw Uthar in a list
I don't know
so
who
far
that
since
is,
the
and I
start of
don't
the
want
edition.
to know. Okay, like just don't even talk to me about. Can we skip Votann? Did their like troops go down in points?
Like, I don't think they were. Is that a 10 point, 20 point
You know
drop?
what that is? It's like, oh, last Palin stage slate, we upped the Sagittar, and now it's like we're going to completely negate that by taking the troops down in points. I'm like, oh great, more casino gun las cannons coming into my. Just move on from Votann. I'm gonna get.
Tell us how you really feel.
I feel bad, man. I just feel bad.
Oh,
It's
here we
ridiculous.
go.
What are we on? Necron. Okay, this is probably a spicy one, right? Because this was like a big meta bogeyman for
And
us.
I've been talking to all my Necron friends throughout the day, and they definitely have been mixed reactions, but I think this consensus is pretty much the same amongst all of them. Is that nothing changed?
Yeah, you know what? You know what? I'm gonna say it now. Head designer Josh Roberts playing Necrons for the last like 3 months, and then Necrons mysteriously not getting nerfed that much. Wow, who would have thunk it, guys? Maybe there's a little bit of bias going on. I wouldn't be one to say, but I am gonna be one to say it because his Canoptic Court list didn't really change, so he's gonna have another 3 months of winning most of his tournaments, which is
Well,
cash.
it did go up 120 points. By what I mean by like it didn't change is that there's no list rewrite for these armies. They're still going to do the same thing they already did, and a lot of them are talking about picking their least favorite Satan and dropping it,
Mm-hmm.
and then just bringing another 150, bringing another Doomstalker, which
Yep.
functionally the list is going to play pretty much the same. You're going to be stat checked by a Satan. You're going to struggle to kill it. You're still going to have to deal with 18 wraiths,
Yep.
which will struggle to kill. and
Yeah.
they're going to sit on objectives and do the exact same thing. If you were an army that struggled into Necrons before, you're going to continue to struggle into Necrons. If you're an
Mhm.
army that did well into Necrons, you're going to do just a little bit better. And like world leaders are in that weird area where I think we were like orange into them, where we have the tools to deal with
Oh, they
them,
were our
but
worst
like
matchup. Like the on the stats, they were worse. They were our worst matchup in the last 3 months.
really
Yep,
okay.
lowest
Well,
win rate.
that is also Necrons is also I put them in like the same area as Custodes for us, whereas like they punish our mistakes pretty hard, and if you commit in the wrong ways, you can just find yourself in tar pits and never leave.
Yeah, or if you run out
Um,
of board presence too early, you just have a monolith show up in your deployment zone.
which
Um,
Nightbringer went up, I think it was like 230, 240 points before. It went up like 50
yeah, but
points.
it's
White
wild to me
Dragon,
that all of these guys are coming in at under 300 points. Like none of those units feel like a unit that should be pointed at anything less than 300. You know,
do you
like
think the Nightbringer is better than Lionel Johnson?
don't 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 say that. That is harsh, man. That is so hard. Wow. I think that must be like one of the biggest
At 200
mic drop lines of this
at
balance,
like
I would say.
230 points too. Like before,
You
like
know what you
oof.
should do? You should go on Reddit and you should just post, I think the Nightbringer is worse than Lionel Johnson and that's why he's 5 points cheaper, and see how many downvotes you can farm. I think that would be an interesting experiment.
I don't even know what some of these things are that dropped points.
Oh, I know what
Or,
most of them
okay,
are actually.
destroyers, yeah, we're good. I
So
don't know what
they're the Ophidian
the
Destroyers are the
command barge is.
weird snake ones. No one plays them because they're trash. Flayed ones going down is pretty funny.
Blade ones are good.
Yeah, they're good.
They're
They're really good, like Jackal screen. Like they're our the Necron version of Jackals. They're not bad. Detmark going down is really funny because they were in a lot of lists. You know, it's just like, what if we make sure we can like overwrite the changes to the Catan by dropping down these units that are actually quite commonly taken?
You're gonna what you're gonna do is you're gonna see I think it's gonna be the Eldar effect where
Yeah,
they took the Incarnate back and shot it, but then turns out they had other good data sheets too.
it's
They just
possible. I
didn't get
don't think they have
they
quite the
just
depth of Eldar. People in chat
no
asking, we
they
haven't done World Leaders yet. We are getting to World Leaders. That is going to be the last one we cover to ramp
the
up
data
to
slate
it.
is alphabetical and
It's
unfortunately
alphabetical.
W.
I think it works really well for content.
It does.
Yeah,
Anything else to say? I think
okay,
Necrons
yeah.
are
I think we kind of like went a bit tangential with the Necrons, but I think it's very, very fair to say that they'll be right up there at the top of the meta alongside Orks.
they are still a stat check army. They're still going to be a 4-1 menace. They're still going to win events.
Yeah, 100%. Oh wow, would you look at that? It's the other
Wow, the
meta
green
army.
army with a
Yeah,
lot of green.
this is like kind
I
of fake green because it's just like moving the
yeah,
codex points back to the index points.
because trucks were also 65 points before
Yeah,
the
Mo-
codex, and then they came out and then nerfed them back up to 65 points.
yeah.
So they didn't change. Pigs, don't worry, it's 4 models now, not 3, so it's functionally the same thing. Boys, 170 points for 20.
It's vibe. It's vibe.
5 up invuln, rerolling ones. 5 up feel no pain, regenning D3 plus the strat and extra D3 plus 2.
Yeah.
I hope you have guns. A lot of them.
You hearing that, world leader players? Bring guns. Okay, cool. I think like not to spend too long on this because I will get pretty angry if we linger here too long. This army is going to
I,
be so toxic to play against. Like it's I think this is like you know the way like a lot of people when the Orc Codex came out were like it's going to be okay because orcs are really fun to play against. People are going to discover very, very quickly that 120 boys is not at all fun to play against. And you know what
with
else
the
isn't fun to
jump.
play against? Cheaper versions of wardens in the form of meganobs. Like I have lived through several orc metas. Like I lived through the 15 Luda Death Star, or was it 30? I can't remember. I lived through the like indirect buggy spam, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's fun because it's orcs." And you know what? It's actually really not fun. It's not fun at all. It's and this is gonna probably, in my opinion, be it is maybe as bad as the buggy meta, where you will just have orc players pushing 120 boys across the board, no thoughts required, just shove them and say, can you deal with it? And you either can or you can't. And if you can't, the game is over because you've got like so much OC on points. They all sticky, and they're really hard to remove. So if you are world eaters, it's going to be. Would you say this is going to be the hardest matchup, the Green Tide?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be up there. I know some people seem to think we can handle it, but 20 models with basically a 4.5 up invuln with a 5 up feel no pain.
Mm,
Nothing we have just cleans that up. Like I
no.
think the 10 berserkers plus Khorne may barely do it.
No,
Barely
they
do it,
don't.
and
They
that's it.
don't. We
They
ran the
don't.
numbers the other day. They kill, I think it was 18 or something like that. Joey Hill, my hot, wet orc summer. I like it. We have a $5 super chat from Zach. Follow up question. How do y'all feel about a list that runs one 6-man exalted, one 3-man exalted, and three 3-man regular 8 bands?
It's a
Um,
lot of 8 bound.
it's a lot of 8 band. It's probably not amazing into the what will be the current meta, like the orc meta and the Necron meta.
You don't want to
Um,
be playing elite MSU right now.
no, I think that would have been great into like the Custodes, like the previous meta where it's like 3 damage and kind of killing elite infantry was really valuable. I think going forward, that list will suffer for what is going to emerge as like the trend. So if you're like, playing casual games at home with some friends and stuff, it will probably be fine because you can just tell them not to bring like 120 boys. But if you're going to a tournament, it will probably be a pretty rough list to run. Like 8 band are still great, but I think if you decide to tech really heavily into it, we'll get to it. But if you decide to tech heavily into 8 band, you're not making the most of our changes.
Um, this this data slate, we'll get there as well, was definitely very friendly to other non 8 bound variants
Yes,
for list building.
yeah,
So it definitely got harder than it was to be on 8 bound spam.
yeah. I think Aiden actually captures like the upcoming meta really well by simply saying you tech for orcs, you lose to Ironstorm. You tech for Ironstorm, you lose to orcs. And I think that's exactly it. Like the
I
way I
just
was
lose
saying
to both.
earlier, you tech for orcs, you lose to guard. You tech for guard, you lose to orcs. I don't know, man. Like I I know there's like people excited about orcs, but I just can't share that enthusiasm because a lot of them just are like adamantly refusing to acknowledge that the army is more broken than Necrons were. Um,
It depends. The Orc Codex as a whole, I feel like has really good design from a flavor aspect. Like if you want to
yeah,
play your orcs as you envision orcs in your head, it's probably the best codex written.
yeah,
You're going to have a fantastic time.
but it's just a little
But
overtuned.
yeah, 120 boys is going to probably pick up a lot of GTs in the next few weeks, and GW may probably overreact and crack down on them in 3 months, maybe sooner.
I think it will be
But
sooner. I don't think they will allow them to be that oppressive for a full balance season because people will just stop going. It. I think the first time you play it, you'll be like, haha, this is funny. And then you literally turn around from the game you just got hammered in and you play like an orc player who's lost to Ironstorm and they just do the same thing again. It's just
but
like,
what
okay.
list beat it? What list can handle
Um,
120 orcs?
I
Like,
think Deck Guard. I think Deck Guard have a really good shot at beating.
and I think like Tau and Guard, like
Ooh,
it's
I'm not sure about Tau. I don't think they quite have the volume.
it. I have some thoughts when we get there because Tau's also kind of flipped on its head quite a bit how it plays.
Yeah, Tau is
Once we
weird.
get there, but for now, I mean, we're looking at Space Marines.
Oh, okay,
Um,
cool.
really nothing changed.
Yeah,
Hellblasters weren't seeing too much play. Maybe they get come back. They're really cool models. I really like them. Brutalist Dreadnought dropping just a little bit is nice. I like it them putting some distance between the Dreadnought and the Lancer because typically when you have an argument of what's better, Brutalist Dreadnought or Lancer, Lancer almost always wins. So them putting a little bit of distance and points there to make that an actual decision is nice.
yeah.
Assault Intercessors with jump packs. I've actually always been a fan of them. 10 Assault Intercessors plus grenades is like
Oh yeah, they're
eight,
not bad. Like
it's
you're
like
gonna do
eight
like,
mortal
yeah,
wounds.
6 to 8 mortals. Like they're not terrible.
People are like, how do I deal with an Incarn? And I was like, throw this at it.
Yeah, just rush it. I think the annoying space potato went up, right? The Storm Raven.
Eliminators are the snipers, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm so
I
glad
didn't
they went up,
see.
but it's not enough.
I didn't really see anybody playing them.
Okay, right. Let me tell you what they can do because I've been
Well, I know
playing.
what they do.
Do you know the thing about the double shoot where they hop back in the impulsor?
Well, they got. You can't do that anymore.
Can you not? I think you still can.
They did. They designers note that like 2 data slates ago.
With the firing deck?
Yeah, that you can't double. You can't double shoot
Oh
guns.
man,
I
someone did
thought.
that to
I
me recently.
swear they
I
did
don't.
that.
I think you can still do it, but okay. Um,
We'll talk about it anyways,
yeah.
because it's at least.
So basically, they could do a thing where they could shoot and then reactive move after shooting and get into an impulsor in the reactive mood, and then because it counts as the impulsor firing when you do the firing deck. When the guys are inside, they can use the firing deck to just fire those guns again, which is just like
Or no,
so
I think
funny.
they.
No, they
I'm
did it with
thinking of
single
them.
shot stuff where it was like
Yeah,
you
that's what
can't.
I'm
Yeah,
thinking. Is
yeah,
like
you can still do the
the.
eliminator thing because they just reactive move in, and then because they're inside the impulsor, the firing deck is like active, and they haven't fired yet because it's not the actual unit. Anyway, listen, it's toxic. Don't worry about it. And the Vindicator went down as well. Nice.
And if you're playing tabletop 40K and your friend does that to you, smack their models onto the floor.
Oh yeah, for real. If that happens in your kitchen, you escort them out quickly.
Terminator Squad. It's the Terminator edition, right? Terminators are gonna see play now, right?
Yeah, sure. Still bad. Still bad. Space
Vindicator.
Potato up in points. Let's go.
Oh, the Storm Raven gunship.
Yeah, I
What was
don't know
that
how much
originally?
it was
Wasn't it like
before.
I want to say it was like 230,
I think it
240.
was 240. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 240.
Whatever. That list did not go up enough points.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. Otherwise, we'll get real toxic.
Also, want to talk about friends coming over and you escorting them to the door. If somebody walks in with double Storm Raven, double Redemptor, you show them the door.
Fact. Don has come back in about the Hellbroofer deck guard. He's saying it's great. Orcs destroy Mortarian if they have the snagger keyword. Fair enough.
But nobody's playing the snag attachment, right?
Oh,
It's all
yeah,
about the tide.
I don't know, man. Well, okay.
I was talking
I think it's
specifically in the context of tide when I was talking about
Oh yeah,
Orcs not being able to handle
Look,
Mortarion.
we're gonna talk really deep about orcs in a how to beat orcs video when we work out how to beat the orcs.
Also, after we calm down and stop being malicious about it too. It's
Hey
going to be a
man,
very hateful video.
hey man. I'm okay with being hateful. I think there's a market for it, you know? Like I think me and Aiden really leaned hard into the like hate Custodes thing, and I think a lot of people reciprocated well to it. So, you know what? Maybe people need to see my like less pleasant side more. Space Wolves. All right. Ugh. Nothing happened here. Can we let's just skip these guys.
I don't think anybody was playing Wolf. Again, Terminator Edition. Nobody's playing Terminators. Wolf Scouts, I don't even know what those do. Tau?
What wolf scouts? Are they just like scouts, but because they're space wolves, they were like, we have to put the wolf in front. It probably is.
It's for the role
okay.
play.
Tau is weird, right? Because they said in the Meta Watch video that there's going to be a points change for them when the Codex actually releases. So,
And I think they're going to get the Forge World treatment, so Tetras are gone. Bye-bye. My least favorite model in the game.
Yeah, probably.
I hate those things so much. But Tau's looking really solid as is right now.
Points. It really, really depends on the points.
Crisis Battlesuit Dream is dead. I think we're going to see Tau spread out a lot more rather than being these clusters of just high value, just zooming around the board, blowing you up.
It's going to be a bit more MSU kind of like Breacher in Fish.
We're going to see walls of stuff with hammerheads behind them and riptides and just stuff in front of it. It's going to be really good. It's going to have a lot of firepower to put out for world leaders. We are going to struggle into that because we have no clean way of just pushing through their dirt cheap vehicles.
They also have
to get to their actual good vehicles.
Every detachment, they have like I can mess with your charge kind of thing. Like there's a lot of things that reduce your charge roll or like have your take your pick.
Exalted Apeon are definitely our best answer into that matchup.
Yeah.
But just being able to get in their face and get stuck usually is enough to win you the game on the spot. But that's also a huge risk because now you have to pray that they failed their leadership tests.
Oh yeah,
if they pass all their leadership tests, you're just kind of sitting there.
Dude,
and you're like,
I love that gameplay.
Cool.
Like I love the just doing it into votann where I'm just like full send, fail a leadership check, I win. You pass, I lose. Like, there's something about like feeling my heart almost like fall out of my chest when it comes to that roll because it's beating so fast. I'm just like, this
You
is,
have 300 points of 8 bound surrounding one Pathfinder model, just like
you know,
staring at him.
yeah,
And
failing.
the whole army's like, well, we can't shoot him because we kill our own
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. Okay, this
Uh,
is your baby. Talk to me.
I just started getting into Thousand Suns. I'm not a Thousand Suns expert by any means, but Thousand Suns are the best army in the game. Can't change my mind. After this data slate, um, you're going to see the Thousand Sun players really start to pop off because they just made out like a bandit. They didn't have any of their good shit nerfed. Um, they were already performing really well at GTs. There's just not a lot of them. They're kind of like the Genestealer issue, where there's not a lot of them, but the ones that do exist have massive brains and
They're a
just
hard army to play, right? Like there is
they
actually
are.
a lot of like complex gameplay loops with these guys and like actually very easy to accidentally misplay the army because the timing of when a lot of the cabal stuff happens is quite convoluted. So
You
I
have
think
to plan out your entire turn in
yeah,
your command phase.
I think they you're right. They are probably in terms of the rules available, the most powerful army in the game, but they are so much harder to play than Necrons or Orks that I don't think they're going to be like, we'll say, a problem in the sense of like, they will probably win events. They will probably do quite well at events, but there won't be that many people who pick them up just because of how complex they are. Like you go to a meta chaser and you say, what do you want to do? Do you want to run 120 boys across the board and not think and win all your games? Or do you want to sweat for every single game, have like brain drain after like halfway through day one? Like they're gonna gravitate towards orcs. I don't think meta chasers will go for T-Sons because it's just too weird. Like they're playing
Uh,
a different edition functionally.
And if you do find yourself, I would rather be fighting a 120 orc list at a top table at round 5 than I would want to be fighting a top Thousand Suns player, though. Top
On round five, yeah, definitely.
on
Like,
round 5, you should be
yeah,
scared if you're fighting Thousand Suns and it's round 5 and you're both undefeated.
yeah.
Um,
Like that, they've got that second brain. They've got the dinosaur hindbrain, and it's gonna
because
be good.
they did get nerfed a little bit with their enhancements, just a little bit,
Hmm.
but their cultists are playable. They have Scout 6 and they give you a CP when they die. You know what really tells 120 boys to just take a step back and you don't really care? And then the next turn you just set them on fire. Thousand Suns probably has
Oh yeah, that's like the picture I
the
sent
most
in the other
output.
day of when I played Thousand Suns. the wall of cultists that screened me out for a whole turn, and then in the next turn I got set on fire.
Oh, and also World Leader players, sorry. Thousand Suns Princes are actually pretty good.
Oh
And
yeah,
I'd say
yeah.
they're some of the better ones in the game. Their Winged Prince is way better than ours at 180 points. And their Footprints
Yeah.
is pretty solid
The
at
footprints I think
170
is
points
quite
now.
good. Yeah,
The
I like
Wing one
them.
has uppy downy and it has mortal wound output.
Mm.
And both of their princes have 6 shots on their bolt gun instead of 3.
Yeah, well, that's the Thousand Suns thing, right? They always get like a little bit more ranged, for the price of strength in
Yeah,
combat.
but then no, they have the exact same melee output as ours.
Oh, I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure they do.
I'm like
I thought they have like
90% sure
six
they don't.
attacks. Okay, I'll look that up real quick.
I
But
don't
I'm
think it's
I'm
like it's a
I'm
make
pretty
or
sure they're
break.
comparable at least.
They're comparable, but we do take the edge. But yeah, I think you're right. T-Son's like definitely an army to watch. Definitely an army that will be hard for world leaders to beat. But I think of the three that we've talked about so far, so Crowns, Orcs, and T-Sons, I would like to play T-Sons the most, unless it's round five, and then you know the T-Sons player is scary smart. So, like Orcs at round five, Orcs at round one. What's the difference? T-Sons at round one versus T-Sons at round five is like there's like a double digit IQ difference here, which is gonna be real scary. So yeah, I think T-Sons are one to watch for sure.
Tyranids,
I don't think anything interesting has happened with Nids. Gargoyles went up, fine. Like they're
everything they weren't playing and didn't plan to play
yeah,
went down.
yeah.
Gargoyles are a menace.
There. But I just don't think like Nids don't need points. They need unit changes. Like nothing of theirs does significant damage. Nothing of it is high strength. It's just too much of a problem.
I think the issue with Nids is they have two armies. They have Endless Swarm, and then they have all other 5 detachments they play, and they just pick which stratagems they want for their army because their army is the same regardless of which 5 detachments they play.
Yeah.
And they're just cherry picking through the worst stratagems for which ones that they want.
Mm. Okay.
So
Bye bye, Nids. We'll see you
my
maybe in balance.
my Nid teammate said that his list actually went up points from this because gargoyles
Oof.
are just that good, and they didn't actually play any of these.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zoanthropes are actually
They're not
okay,
bad.
but
Yeah. They're okay.
they're okay. There we go.
Hey, we're there. Okay. To everyone who's still watching, we got a lot of people in chat right now. There's like nearly 100 people here. If you have just joined us, we have finally gotten to the world leaders points. We've talked about everything. We're going to go through the world leaders points in a lot more detail now. If you have questions, as I said, super chat will get the questions answered straight away. We'll try and get to what we can, but we are going to spend a bit of time here, maybe like, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour talking about this. We are going to do a deeper concentrated meta dive into world leaders specifically in a different video. We'll talk about some lists, but for now we're going to give our initial reactions, and I think it's fair to say that I was fucking hype when I saw this. Like,
I think I mentioned at the beginning, if you are a off-meta world leader player, you are very happy now, which is exactly what I wanted to see happen.
yeah.
I think what we're seeing right here should have been on the last data slate. It should have been red plus green, not just straight red or straight green. Because the last data slate was framed as the internal balance data slate.
But this is actually like pretty almost like good internal balance for the world leaders. Like we're not quite
Correct.
there, but this is close, you know.
And Jackal's going down 5 points. Everybody was playing Jackals. Berserker's going down 10 points for your 10, or 20 points for your 10. Fantastic. If you are playing one of the more meta lists, you're going to see yourself in this awkward 30 to 40 point drop where you're not really sure what you should do. We don't have cheap units, unfortunately. And you'd be looking at dropping something to upgrade to something bigger or dropping something expensive to turn into 2 medium things.
Yeah.
If you are an off meta list, you suddenly just found 150 points in your pocket.
It's a good time. It's a good time to be non-gron. I think like non-gron was like semi-viable, right, in the previous season. It wasn't like very good, but you could do okay with it, and I did okay with it. Now I think non-gron is like highly viable, like especially in the upcoming meta. Ron doesn't love orcs in general, I think. T-Sons, I personally don't like Ron in the T-Sons matchup because he's like such a good target for a lot of their stuff. Hello, double or triple Doom Bolt.
Granted, he's just fast enough to be able to get through the quicksand regardless. Like if he gets quicksanded, he can still have a decent threat range, but it does not feel good still. It's awful.
But conversely, non-Gron, you've got so many more units on the board that the quicksand matters less because they're going to hit 2 or 3, depending on how many disc sorcerers they have. And Magnus like doesn't really have a very obvious like target. No one unit is probably going to get triple Doom Bolted unless maybe Exalted 8-ban. So I think non-Gron is favored in T-Sons. I think it's favored in Orks, but I don't think it's favored in Necrons. I think I would rather have a Ron list into Necrons. What do you think?
Yeah, Ron definitely helps you with those matchups where you just get stuck and tar pitted and you need to blow something up, just one thing. Custodes, he was fantastic, and he was pretty much the only thing keeping that dream alive for us to not have a 0% win rate into Custodes. He'll still do fine into that. He's fine into his Space Marines, Ironstorm lists. But definitely in the Horde meta, I see us going to. We're going to have like a mid-table mash. Non-grind, you can kind of get away with a little bit more.
Yeah.
And
yeah, sorry, go on.
And I was gonna say kind of what we were talking about with like the off meta, like weird choices you have coming here too. I guess no, I'll let you finish your idea before I get to that, Dara.
I was just gonna touch on that horde meta thing that you were saying. what a time for berserkers to go down in points. Going into the horde meta of 120 boys. I know we were saying we don't really have anything that like efficiently, like hyper efficiently kills them, but
If you
berserkers,
leave them at 4 models, that's like good enough.
it's good enough. But berserkers going down when I think I was talking about it in the Patreon competitive chat like maybe a month ago when the Orc League started happening. And I wrote that, remember that wild berserker spam list where I was just like, I don't know, this maybe combats the new orcs, but like it loses to everything else. Now I'm kind of like, okay, with the points I saved in that list, I saved like 100 points when I opened that list up today. I was able to move it around a lot to make it better into more armies while still combating the orc
And
menace. And now
I
I'm going to
actually
present that
really
list
like
in the
that
video.
list.
I love that list, dude. I'm going to talk about it in the actual video, which might be coming out tomorrow. But like I love it, right? Because there is so much list building we can do now, and it's not just berserkers. Like it's not that at all. Like jackals being 65 points is honestly I think the biggest change here, apart from Mauler fiends, but we'll get to them. Jackals at 65 is pushed, like really really pushed.
When
And if
cultists were 55 before that, I'll pay 10 points more for
Yeah,
jackals.
100%. If you are someone who wants to run like the footprints builds with the invulns and stuff like that, like wow, so good.
And
um, really,
I
really
was
good.
I was kind of championing the footprints plus Ron build for a little bit here, for like the past 2 months. I had a lot of success with it. I will say, unfortunately, I'm struggling to find like the sweet spot in there
Mm,
with this because these points drops are super awkward.
yeah.
It's really hard to figure out what to throw in there.
Um,
Um,
Pius is
but
saying, what characters would you put in with the Zerks after Karn and Mo with Glaive? I think I won't go too much into it, but now is a good time. You know what I'm going to say. Now is a good time to introduce
you
my
know,
new alternative to Glaive Mo. Not an alternative, an addition. I will present you with Lustful Mo. Have a look at Mo at Battle Lust and have a think about that in the Orc matchup,
so
and enjoy that thought.
so like
Um,
in like a push meta where like you're gonna push stuff in the middle, Battle Lust opens up a lot for us now because you
mhm.
can like put your Exalted Ape on in the middle of the board and say, like, here's my bouncer next to him. Like,
I
are you
like
sure
that.
you want to
Yeah,
charge him?
I really like that that term you used when you said it earlier today. Like you've got like Lusty Mo bouncing for the Exalted Eight Band, just being like, "You want to come in? The door's open," you know.
You gotta
But
pay
I'll
the you
drag
gotta
you
pay the
out. Yeah.
yeah. So
I think he is a very very interesting choice in the upcoming meta, and quite a good counter. Not like a hard counter to orcs, but is a good answer to have in the pipe. So I think he's worth looking at. But yeah, Jackal's at 65, man. I just can't get over it. Like when I saw it, my eyes like nearly fell out of my skull. It was
I
just
was
like,
not because we did that tier list thing. They're
yep,
I think the second highest thing on the tier list.
yep,
Um, so that's nice to see.
yep.
Uh,
No increases as well, which is good. It kind of means they. I thought Angron was gonna go up, but he didn't. But like
I
what went down really opens up the list building opportunities because so Zerk's going down to 90. We'll go into that one next, right? Zerk's at 90 is a very attractive price point, I think, if you want to build Zerker heavy lists. And I genuinely think at 90 points, they feel okay for what their data sheet is.
I think they found their home,
Yeah.
and a little bit more than this would have been like they're pushing it, and I don't feel like they're pushed. I feel like they're comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think like that lower damage ceiling that we have on them at the minute is a lot more like digestible when they're only 90 points. And it also puts them in a really cool position where a unit of 5 with no one attached is like a very interesting unit to put out early in the game. Put it on an objective and just say, okay, you can shoot it if you want. It's 90 points, but don't get too close because I'll blood surge you.
They're
Um,
also like the perfect scout clear now, right? Before people were using jackals, I had mixed results with jackals. Usually they would be able to handle the scouts and at least take the objective.
yeah.
Not all the time. Same thing with spawn. Not all the time. 5 berserkers will pick up 5 scouts and
Yep.
absolutely shred them.
I used to use them in the first iteration of my non-gron list when I was on the Wing Prince. I always had like 5 naked Zerks to scout forward. I think you're actually going to see a lot of World Leader players using that now as like So what I actually think will happen is a lot of world leader players have found that, like as you said, they found that like 30-ish points, and they're kind of like, what do I do with it? Maybe they found like 35 to 40. I think a lot of people are going to turn their second jackal squad into 5 berserkers and use them as that go up and kill the first thing and be a little bit annoying to actually kill. And I think that will be something that a lot of people really enjoy doing. So I could see it, but like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like 10 models, 180 points. It feels very good. Feels very, very good into the upcoming meta where you want to spam that like single damage big numbers. I don't know. I as someone
Um,
who's kind of always biased towards berserkers, just as like I've always enjoyed them, I am coming at this from like a, oh yeah, I wanted this to be good. So I might be like a little bit rose tinted here, but I think you have a bit more of a neutral like view on it where you're kind of like, I can objectively look at this unit. I cannot. So I don't know.
well, I didn't get 100 points today, that's for sure. Um, I am. It's worth mentioning, even though it's not above. I am a little disappointed that the demon princes weren't touched. I would have loved to see them drop 20 points.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
that actually would have solved my dilemma here. If I went down just a little bit more, I just
Dude,
would have
Josh
gotten another
Roberts
unit
is
to
like
spawn.
so scared of the Foot Demon Prince. Like he nerfed it in the last balance pass and he didn't drop it, even though he dropped like most of the other princes in this one. The man is scared of the. Now, to be fair, I do think if he dropped like 20 points, we would actually see the 120 Jackal list come back at 65 points for 10, even if it is only a 5 up, because you're just going to be like, yeah, I don't care.
Just, I don't know. There's so many answers to that other than just making the demon prince unplayable.
Also,
I don't
like
know. At the all
120
the
Jackals
stipulation
is
that you
not 120 boys. Like, they are
no,
very different.
and if you're gonna tell me that you hate 120 jackals with 5 up invulns, I'm gonna laugh at you because there's 120 boys with
5 up rerolling.
also for 40 points more, you just get orcs instead.
Yep.
Halbert going up or going down 10 points to 130 points.
You're
Um,
quite a fan of this now, right?
I people have been having a lot of success with Halberts lately, and I still have an overall poor opinion of Halberts just because of terrain and movement issues. Um, I do think there's a place for maybe like a cheeky one of rapid ingress Halbert, but I really think he's going to be outshined by his cousin Demon Engine that got even spicier drops. Like, I don't want to talk about the Halbert too much. I don't think too much has changed about him. If you're running Halberts before, you're going to run your Halberts now. If you weren't running Halberts before, I really don't feel like it's a consideration anymore.
I I'm
Unless
sort of with you, but yeah, go on.
because because of the Mauler Fiend. Um, 15-point drop from 155 down to 140 points. The Mauler Fiend is now cheaper than either of the 8-pound variants. Before, I think it was like 170, 180 points on release. 140 points for a last hitting on twos, 6 mortal wounds on a stick, las cannon fists. Like, this thing's actually quite sick now.
I I would say the Mauler Fiend is like pretty broken at 140 points.
And terrain does make the world here. If you're on
Yeah,
GW
GW
terrain
terrain.
mostly,
Oh my
Mauler
god.
Fiend
Yeah,
is fantastic.
yeah.
If you are on WTC or UKTC, it's going to feel a little bit more mid, but for 140 points, you get a T10 model that is with a 5 up invuln, good armor save, and hits like a truck, and is access to tank shock, which is arguably one of the best stratagems in the game.
Yep.
I'd argue, even taking all of our stratagems into account, it's still top 3 if you factor in world leader strats.
Yeah, I disagree, but fair enough. Yeah.
Being able to walk up to a problematic unit like a Satan or an Incarn and say, take 6 mortals, they're no longer problematic now. Um, that pair that with grenades too. Like, I know people say you're dumping a lot of CP, and you shouldn't be relying on the fact that you have to tank shock. It's the fact that you have the option to tank shock now. It opens up a lot more play avenues and solutions to problems that you wouldn't normally have that solution for, or problems that you wouldn't normally have that solution. A lot of people are going to look at the current like 1975 vanilla list, Ryan's list, and Ryan's list is the 2 most successful like standard world leader lists of what you'd expect
Hmm.
from a world leader list, and you can drop one of the 3-man exalted 8-bound squads and go up a spawn and a Mauler Fiend and beat exactly 2,000 points.
That's very
And
good. That yeah.
and which is I feel like a reasonable transition, especially if you're on GW terrain mostly. Absolutely try it. I'm not saying it's the best thing ever. Just try it.
Yeah.
I had success with Mauler Fiends before when they were 160 points or 170 points. A year ago, me would be going bananas right now looking at this data slate. I think my list dropped like 200 points from the start of the edition.
Hmm.
Um,
I think it's very. You're right though. It's very terrain conditional.
One of
Like
Mauler Fiend and reserves, Ingress, fantastic.
yeah. I mean, you line up that +2 to the charge if it's possible. It's really good. I think the Muller is very pushed at 140. Like when I say it's broken, I'm not like, oh, it's a like 120 boys broken, but like on the right terrain format, like people like Michael who had the like what was it, 3 Maulers, 2 Forges, 1 Dream, that list. That list is like real scary now because that just gained like another unit to play with. Um, and like you said,
Right.
it's the fact that it's dropped below that point cost for
And
the 8 bands.
and it's just such an easy answer for the people that were playing the 1975 or Ryan B's list, something
Yeah.
similar to that. And you need on the spot something to just fill that void and go to an event this weekend. Fantastic substitute for that. I do think all those meta lists, especially my Demon Prince list, we're all going back to the drawing board. I'm probably going to have to rewrite because sitting at 1955, 1960
It
points
doesn't.
is
It feels
just
like you are lacking. Then yeah, yeah. I was at
it,
1980 today, and I was just like, I can't make it work, and I hated it.
the,
I see
there's a
games of
threshold there where you're like,
yeah.
there's a
I don't know
threshold where
what
it's like definitely
okay. That's an
throwing.
interesting one. What is your threshold? As you're like reevaluating lists now, what is the point limit that you're like, I have
It's
to
got to
do?
be a really busted 1970 list. Like
Okay,
it has to be a bonkers list
yeah,
at 1970, and that usually means that like stuff's a bunch of stuff's in there so pushed that I'm not going to bother trying to swap them out.
yeah.
But at 2,000 points, I really do think Ryan B's or the traditional 1975 lists are a solid, like easy answer for this change right now.
Yeah,
While you're
for
feeling
right
things out
now.
and figuring out list building. Yep. Like if you have an event coming up this weekend and you are struggling to figure something out, don't stress. Try out a Mauler Fiend. It's been having success. Like we have like 3 different XO lists in the past like month
I
that have
think
been
we're
on the
about to see
Fiends,
a lot of very very different world leader lists going X and O or X and one.
which is
It's
fantastic.
fantastic. Like okay, I don't. I know I'm quite critical a lot of the time of like new rules and balance updates for GW, or at least I think I am. Maybe I'm not critical as like other content streams, but um, this one specifically for the world leaders is like a big gold star because it moves a long way in internally balancing the index, which is a small pool of units. But now I would say there is very few units in our index that I wouldn't look at seriously. I'm still not looking at Terminators, even though they have dropped. It's not enough. I'm still not looking at, we'll say, the Helldrake or Land Raiders. But everything else, I'm kind of like, it's time to revisit this. Like
You
it's,
forgot the Defiler.
I no, I didn't.
Or was that intentional?
No, it's not in the index. It's fine. It's moving to Legends. Um, so I think for like list diversity, it's really interesting because like your typical Angron list isn't going to change all that much, which is good. You didn't really want that unit or that list archetype gaining too much. I think, as you
No.
said, dropping an 8 band unit, gaining a Mauler and a spawn unit is like fine. It's not quite a lateral change. It's like maybe a slight upward change. But like my list just being completely flipped on its head for Nongron. And then other lists, like people who wanted to do Berserker spam, which is what I'm looking at doing now, people who wanted to do Demon Engine heavy lists, they have all become so much more viable, or not even like skewing into one extreme, like saying, I'm building this like non-ground list, I want to throw in a Mauler Fiend. Now it's a very attractive price point. Or, you're building your Angron list and you're like, it's a real decision of like, do I want more 8 bound or do I want, we'll say, like Khorne
And,
and some berserkers?
and I'm not saying necessarily that these Demon Engine heavy lists too are gonna be like the new way. They're not gonna be breaking the meta. They're just possible now, and like they really will feel fine to play and good to play. And I'm really excited that like this is what internal balance should be. It shouldn't be us getting better. It should be us getting more options,
Yeah.
which is
A
really nice to
lateral
see.
change, but a wider like expansion of what's viable. I think we're going to see like a lot of really interesting archetypes coming out of this for the world leaders, where it's actually going to be really hard to, I think, like categorize, specific archetypes, because I think the lines are going to get very blurry between like, before we kind of had like non-ground, angron, demon engine heavy lists, right? They were like sort of the mainstay for a lot of people, but I think now there's going to be like a weird blend of like a non-gron list with some demon engines, like a angron list with a ton of berserkers, like the the guy I played, I really hope he's watching it, Miles. The last game I played at Manchester, who ran 60 berserkers and 60 jackals, just gained so many points, and that had an angron in the list as well. And I'm like, I mean, he can't add any more jackals or berserkers, so I don't know what he does with those points, but maybe some 8 man. But like, I just think it's going to be super super interesting that world leader players have like a deeper toolbox now, and I'm like so hyped to see what lists come out that start to do well at events, and like talk to some new people, or like recurring people like yourself and Ryan, who start to do well at events with maybe something new. I think that's going to be really exciting, and like I'm cooking. I'm cooking hard. I mean, you saw me cooking today. It was not a pretty sight. I
You
was
posted like 10 different lists in
I was
under
literally like
10 minutes.
frothing at the mouth. I think I posted like 4 lists in 4 minutes
And
or something. It
I think
was
I like your
disgusting.
current iteration the most, and I'm excited to be able to talk about that.
Yeah.
Um, I also do think there's a few other things on the menu for the more traditional lists that Ryan and I were talking about that I really like too. I think I know my list going forward, but that is subject to change. All of that is subject to change because I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea what this meta is going to be. I think I have a good idea of it.
Okay, let's touch on that,
Um,
right? Because we're kind of at that point where um we've gone through everything. We've dived into the world leader stuff, and obviously we're going to go more in depth in our own video coming out in a little bit. But with the meta that you think is going to evolve, like first of all, what do you think is it going to be, and then how well equipped do you think we'll be to combat it?
I think everybody that was already doing well in the meta just took a little bit of a step down or like a side grade. I think all of our bullies took a hit. I think we're going to see a little bit more Death Guard, which is going to be a little bit of a struggle. I know some people think that that's a fine matchup. It depends on player skill, but it's still pretty rough. It's definitely not. We have to try a lot harder to win that matchup. It's a lot easier to lose that one. Um, I'm excited to see I think World Leaders picked up an extra unit. I think one of our big units, like the 8 bound, is going to split into two. We get another unit, which is what we needed. I really felt like we were lacking one unit on the board. Um, I'm excited. There's some more changes I'd like to see in the future for our index. I'd like to see the Prince drop a little bit, and I'd like to yeah, I'd see Angron go up a little bit. I'd trade that for the Prince coming down a little bit.
Yeah, because
And
that net's like zero in your list, right? When you've come both.
yeah, but I
Yeah.
think that list I may be saying goodbye to.
Mm.
But I would like to see things like the World Eaters Lord on Juggernaut come down just a little bit. Regular glaive or regular non-glaive Mo probably doesn't deserve to be 100 points.
I mean, does regular
And
glaive
then
mode deserve to be 125 when we have like,
yes,
Fuegan at 130?
we can't do the side-to-side comparison,
No,
but
we
glaive
could do
Mo
it
is
for
still
Lion and
fantastic.
Nightbringer, but we can't do it for
But
this.
that gets clicks. That gets
That
clicks.
gets clicks.
Um,
Amazing.
the Berserker glaive, I don't think is a 25-point relic. That's all I'd say for that. I think that could come down just a little bit to make it more flexible, to make you want to consider bringing it on other characters. Because I would never throw that on a Demon Prince. I know it sounds cool, but it's
But
just
at
the Demon
15,
Princes are
I would
too
throw it on a Demon Prince,
expensive.
right? Yeah,
It's just too
yeah,
expensive.
yeah, yeah. I totally agree.
Um, just remove Helm from the game and add it to the World Leader Demon Prince on Foot's profile, and we're good. Just because if you're running Helm, it's almost always on a Prince anyways. So
Mm.
just make it part of their data sheets at this point.
Just
Um,
add it in. Yeah.
just add it in.
Oh wow. Imagine if
Uh,
they just added that to data sheets. That'd be wild. On princes, I'd run like four. Oh, I could only run three. I would run three.
well, two and two.
Yeah.
Two and two.
Oh yeah, that's true. No, six. Anyway.
Oh, don't
Um.
squad of bloodletters and bring in another one.
True.
Chaos
Yeah.
demons.
We bring back the mini prince
Um,
list.
I
Yeah, I
think
think it's
that's all my
interesting.
thoughts. I'm really happy with this data slate. I think the meta's going to get shook up a lot, which is good. Even though we may not like where the meta lands, I'm at least happy that it's changing quite a bit and
Yeah.
quite dramatically. And for world leaders, I'm really happy to see kind of like those custom brews get a lot of help and a lot of support because that's what definitely where you want to see the game get pushed.
Yeah, I feel like they really kind of looked at like, okay, what's like the non-optimal stuff and really went at it for us. I think before we close this out, we'll do a very quick Q&A. So if you have questions, fire them into the chat now. So while I let those stream in, I think, yeah, to close out and echo what Brian says, I think this is a very positive slate in general. I wish they went after orcs a little bit more. Like they retroactively buffed Custodes here. Always a scary thing for anyone who remembers when they did this before for Custodes, but we'll see how it goes. I wish they retroactively, or not retroactively, what's the opposite of that? The opposite of retroactively went for orcs proactively. Because like they are just going to be a really big problem in the meta. I think they didn't hit Krons hard enough. Um, and I think Iron Storm kind of got away with it a little bit as well. Iron Storm isn't like the worst. It's just such a boring matchup.
But it's just a stat check.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is.
and if you're a
But
slow moving melee army, you just can't beat it.
yeah, yeah, which we are not, thankfully. I think it's going to be really interesting meta though. I think it's just like everyone is going to be wondering how do I beat 120 boys and coming up with weird lists around it, and we will do the same. But I think with the reductions that we got, we can build lists that can fight orcs while still being competitive into
And
other lists.
I want to caution people not to skew too hard for orcs too, because like you mentioned earlier, Dara,
Yeah.
if you tech to beat orcs, you'll lose to everything else. If you try to beat everything else, you'll lose to orcs. There's a healthy middle ground in there where you kind of just say if it happens, it happens. And you try to
Yeah.
play the most balanced middle ground you can for it. So don't go too crazy.
Yeah, I think that's
We don't
fair.
we don't we don't need 40 berserkers with 3 mows.
Okay, so going into some of the questions and keep firing them in. We'll answer as many as we can. Um, Don wants to know when our rematch is. Next time I come to the States, which is probably never. Um, Dan says 8 bound of neither type went down in cost. Discuss why this is wrong. I don't think this is wrong. I don't think this is wrong at all, especially in the context of the changes that we've gotten here today. I think if 8 bound went down in cost, it actually makes all of these changes like almost meaningless, right?
Yeah, we like I mentioned earlier is the whole point. I really felt like this was part two to the last data slate. We should have seen these changes here on the last data slate to make it really an internal balanced data slate. Making Exalted 8 bound drop right now would not really accomplish internal balance.
Yeah.
Like 8 bound were being spammed quite a bit before. Now they're probably at a healthy level. Do I personally think they're still overcosted? Yes, but I'd rather see everything else get a little bit of help before we keep looking at the 8 bound problem.
Dan's not taking it well, but that's to be expected. Zach from Sad Boy Hours. Just built 6 exalted and 9 regular 8 band. Can I still run them or do I slim down? Okay, it really depends on what you want to get out of this season. If you want to like regularly challenge events, like significant events, GTs, etc., I think probably slim down. If you want to have a reasonably fun but still competitive time, you can probably get away with running that. I think it would still be good. The first list that I wrote today had 6 exalted and 3x3 8 bound. I think that is still viable. You just have to be aware that it could get stat checked pretty hard into 120 boys, but it's kind of like okay into bully boys if they show up, and it's fine into Kron still, and it's good into T-Sons. So that's like it's not the
And
worst thing, I think.
I'm still on 12 8 bound with my
Mm-hmm.
current iteration too. I think that's the sweet spot. You want to own somewhere between like 9 to 15 of like you're always gonna have at least a squad of 8 bound and a squad of exalted 8 bound. So being able to have 9 of either all the way up to like 15 to 18
Mm-hmm.
is you can cover all your bases. So no, that wasn't a mistake. You can still absolutely run them and do fine with them.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, keep going for it. Okay, what else have we got? Everyone getting ready for Green Tide, blah blah blah. That's not a question. But funny though. Tom Weston mostly plays teams, so not worried about orcs. Fair. Think I'm gonna
That's
stick
so
to the.
nice.
Yeah, that is really nice.
Yeah, but what do you do when they hand you orcs or death guard?
Oh, you take that card.
You
Yeah,
got to pick.
100%. I take that card every day of the week, unless it's Aiden. Aiden will get in my head. So
You
yeah,
drop from the event.
Tom wants
There
to
you go.
know if they stick with the 1975 and change one Jackal unit to Berserkers. Uh, we actually
So
talked about this. I literally said that people would change a Jackal unit to Berserkers.
I I do think that's a knee-jerk reaction. I
Yeah,
know like we're in knee-jerk town right now, but that extra squad of jackals brings so much value that berserkers can't. You can now screen when you have 20 jackals. Like you can, if the orc tide is running at you, you could advance up the board and build a wall if you needed to and try to use them for zoning. If you have Invocatus and it's on one of those missions where they give you extra objectives, you can actually scout jackals onto one of those objectives pregame and start
on
the game
Hidden
with two
Supplies. Yeah,
objectives stickied.
yeah.
Um, I think 20 jackals is almost mandatory
Yeah, I think if you were to
if
change
you're
to the
doing a traditional
1975,
style.
how
Yeah,
would you change to the 1975? So
I think like how I mentioned earlier is you drop the 3-man exalted 8-bound Mauler Fiend spawn
yeah,
because I had a lot of success bringing spawn into my list that I think Ryan's current list doesn't have and the 1975 didn't have is you don't really have like a your opponent has to overcommit to kill this thing piece. Spawner that piece. You throw them in the middle of the board. You say, good luck. They may have picked up your opponent's scouts, whatever they threw in the middle of the board. And now you have a 4-up save, 4-up feel no pain. If you position it right, you get cover. Um, it's going to take a lot more than 65 points of models to kill those spawn.
yeah.
And your opponents are going to have to commit a little bit. So I actually like the idea of pulling spawn into the 1975 and Ryan B's list just because that's
I
just
think it's fair.
another avenue of gameplay that you have. It's another tool you have.
Yep.
So that would be my
Um,
suggestion for now is to try the Mauler Fiend, try the spawn. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe the lists just need to be rewritten.
All right, let's move on because the questions are coming in. Elfin, which units would you take away if we get new models like Blood Surgeons or Jug Cavalry? Simply the Helldrake and Defiler. I don't think it warrants that much debate.
I mean, I'd like to see the Heldrake stay. I think it's a fantastic model
Yeah,
in
it's cool.
terms of looks. It's brilliant. It's relatively new. The Defiler, I don't know. I'd probably have a Defiler burning party if they got rid of him.
Oh yeah, that would be fun. Yeah. Okay, Alex. In our opinion, what would it take for the Terminators to become viable? If we're looking at points only, I would say
150.
150, 160 would be quite viable.
They
If we're
don't
looking
have
at
a rule on their data sheet.
yeah, actual rule changes, a attachable character and or a rule that works, like a data sheet rule that works. Both of those would be really interesting for Terminators, and they just have to be like a little bit different from what the ape band are doing. But yeah, it doesn't need much, just a little bit.
Imagine, imagine if Terminators had the Mauler Fiend rule instead. +2 to charge, +1 to hit. It's
That,
injured.
that would be cool.
Be
Yeah.
pretty sick.
Okay, let's keep going. On a more serious note from Dan, with Spawn and Jackals being the same points, is there still a reason to run both? Spawn being 2 damage still has them as a good nuisance unit. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. I think there's, like, as you said, killing those MSU in the middle of the board, like marine bits and pieces, it's not always guaranteed with 10 Jackals, but it's pretty likely with 2 Spawn, right?
It's not likely, but you've presented them with a problem where they have to overcommit back. I think 2d6 number of attacks +6 hitting
Yeah.
on 4s, you can very easily whiff with that, and frequently will. Over the course of 2 combat phases, you'll do it.
Yeah.
If you get stuck in them, and then on their turn you'll kill it, so they're gonna have to run away and not be able to do an action or something. But just presenting that here's an annoying thing on an objective you have to deal with is a completely different role than what Jackals do.
Yeah. Tom says if either of us are at WTC, a beer on him. I don't think. Well, I certainly won't be there because I will be in Gibraltar at the time. But
Is that in
you,
Poland?
I think it's in Poland this year. Yeah. Oh, I think Games is going actually, but yeah, I won't be there anyway. But
That's too far for me to fly.
it's quite far. Yeah. I will be following along, of course. Yeah, I think we are there with the questions. What a stream! We've been going for quite a while, 2 hours now. But what a day! What a really really good day. You're happy with the overall changes, right, Brian?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's only good news.
Yeah.
We only got points drops. Nothing bad happened.
Yeah.
And it's been on a lot of neat things that I think needed it for a while.
Yeah. And it's shaking up the meta. Maybe not quite the like put it up over your head and shake it like a cocktail. Maybe like a light kind of salt grinder shake, but it's doing stuff. It's going to change. Like the actual meta itself, I think will change a lot. Even though Crons might still bully around the top, I think the mid
But
tables are going to be wild, like so crazy.
I think, funnily enough, 120 boys probably beats Canoptic Court down the hardest.
Yeah.
Like you might actually like it's like Godzilla, let them fight. Like I
Yeah.
think that's gonna be what happens, and Crons are just gonna get run over by 120 boys. I don't know how the traditional Crons list as written deal with that.
Maybe Josh Roberts decided not to nerf Canoptic Court because in playtesting he was getting harvested by 120 boys. Maybe he was like, I need to like do something about this.
Right, I actually have some models being dropped off at my door right now that I gotta go grab.
All
The
right.
mailman's a little early,
All right,
but
we will close this one out in that case. Everyone, thank you so much for joining the stream, and we will be back very soon with more focused videos on the balance status slate and what it means for world leaders. So, until then, folks, thank you very much for joining us. Stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn. Okay, I think we are out.